The Sorcerer, The Path to Transcendence starting from Marvel. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 1 Hogwarts Potion Shop. Arthur Avenue, Bronx, New York. This is America's most Italian-inspired thoroughfare, a charming and integrated scenic boulevard integrating tourism, leisure, and fine dining. During the day, it's bustling with tourists and gourmands, drawn by the stunning scenery or drawn by the authentic Italian cuisine. The streets are filled with laughter, the hum of conversation, and the cries of vendors blending together to create a vibrant and bustling scene. However, at night, as shops close and lights turn off, the once bustling streets gradually quiet. Only the rows of street lights provide a dim glow, a light that seems tired, struggling to illuminate the space. The entire street is plunged into darkness, shrouded in a mysterious veil. Only the lights of the high-rise apartments gradually light up, like tiny stars, bringing a touch of warmth and vitality to the darkness. Buildings 6 and 8 Arthur Avenue were once closely connected. Suddenly, a small house appears on the street. The number on it read 7 Arthur Avenue. Both the sudden appearance of the small house and the numbers on it stood out. A sign hung prominently above the hut, inscribed in large letters, Hogwarts Potion Shop. In the dim light, the sign exuded a mysterious and strange aura. Those who kept watch over the place called in one after another. "Boss, the potion shop is open for business. Good job." "I'll be right there, boss." "Yes, I see, sir. The target has been sighted. I'll be right there." In less than 10 minutes, several luxury cars raced down the street. The screeching of brakes shattered the night stillness, and smoke from the friction of tires filled the air. A group of wealthy and prominent figures emerged from the cars. "Mr. Carl, I didn't expect you to come," a bearded man greeted enthusiastically. "Stephen, you're well informed," Carl replied with a smile, but a scrutinizing look lingered in his eyes. The two embraced like old friends, each harboring their own thoughts. "You're so tight-lipped. You didn't even tell me about this good news," Stephen complained, a look of discontent on his face. "Stephen, even though you're a powerful figure on Wall Street, it's just sudden wealth." Carl's tone seemed to mock Stephen's easy wealth, lacking foundation. Stephen felt embarrassed and was about to retort. Hum, the roar of an engine suddenly erupted, its powerful sound waves assaulting everyone's eardrums. A silver Audi R8 sped around the corner, its bodywork gleaming brightly under the streetlights. The license plate, emblazoned with the name Tony Stark in cursive script, stood out. "Trouble. Why is this playboy here?" someone muttered. Tony Stark stepped out of the car, his movements effortless, his every gesture exuding confidence and uninhibited spirit. Walking to the other side of the car, he gently opened the door and bowed like a gentleman. A tall, blonde woman stepped out of the passenger seat, her skirt flowing in the wind, like a star from a movie screen. "Tony, where's this place?" Pepper Potts asked, her beautiful eyes curiously scanning the surroundings. "Pepper, this is a great place. It's your birthday today." "As expected, I always have good luck with you," Tony Stark smiled confidently, his eyes filled with tenderness. Pepper Potts was a little dissatisfied. "It's my birthday today. I want to see a Broadway show, not this place," she said with a hint of complaint. Tony Stark quickly put his arm around Pepper Potts' waist, his movement skillful and natural. Pepper Potts struggled to break free, a faint blush spreading across her face. "With so many people here, give your boss some face," Tony Stark said with a playful wink. "Don't embarrass me." Pepper Potts then noticed the large crowd around. And everyone's identity was extraordinary. They were mostly prominent figures who only appeared on TV, and her confusion grew. "What's going on? What exactly is this place?" Pepper Potts asked again. "Secret." Tony Stark deliberately kept things a secret, a mysterious smile on his face. Happy Hogan, a portly, bearded man, looked intimidating. He was Tony Stark's bodyguard and driver. He was carrying a suitcase, and from Happy's flushed face, it was clear that the contents were heavy. Tony Stark snapped his fingers casually. "So what are you waiting for, then?" He gently yet possessively put his arm around Pepper's slender waist, and with a confident smile, he walked calmly towards the mysterious shop. Meanwhile, the others also began to move. Among them was a man with a slightly high hairline, his eyes focused and cautious, as if he was nervously reporting to his superiors through his headset. "Sir, they're all about to enter that magical potion shop." His voice was low, yet its eagerness was unmistakable. "Follow them, Phil." A steady and decisive command came from the headset. "Okay, sir," Phil Coulson replied quickly. "But we might return empty-handed today." His brow furrowed slightly, his face filled with frustration. "The lowest paid person tonight is a billionaire. The funds I bring are barely enough." He shook his head unconsciously as he spoke. "I'll do my best," came the brief but firm reply from the other end of the headset. Coulson shrugged, sighed softly, and said, "Okay, Hogwarts," Pepper asked curiously, looking at the shop sign. "Is that a place name?" Stark replied nonchalantly, "Who knows?" Then, Pepper's eyes were drawn to the two stone sculptures at the door. The sculptures were so lifelike, the figures' expressions of terror and despair so vividly portrayed. One could sense their deepest fear and helplessness. The struggle was vividly displayed, every detail perfectly executed. Even the subtle wrinkles in the clothing were visible, as if these weren't cold statues, but two living souls frozen in time. It was simply a masterpiece. However, Pepper didn't appreciate it. Instead, she felt a wave of discomfort, her body trembling slightly. As if at some point, the two statues suddenly moved and pounced on her. The manager of this store seems to have a warped aesthetic. Why put two such terrifying statues at the door? Pepper couldn't help but complain, subconsciously moving closer to Stark. Stark didn't have the heart to tell Pepper the truth, fearing it would scare her. He changed the subject. "Let's go in and find a seat," Stark said, gently pulling Pepper's hand and leading her into the shop. As they entered, they felt a surge of warmth. Pepper, dressed in her formal attire, couldn't help but exhale a breath of cold air. The white mist instantly dissipated into the warm air, and she felt instantly freed from the chill, her entire body warmed. "Are the customers here?" A voice, indistinguishable from both sexes, drifted through the mist, ethereal and unreal. "As usual, find a seat wherever you want." A figure wearing a pale mask and robes incongruous with the time stood behind the counter, intently preparing something. With these words, he ignored Stark and Pepper, completely absorbed in his work. Stark seemed accustomed to this, calmly taking a seat in the center of the first row facing the counter, then gently guiding Pepper to sit to his left. Pepper stared at the mask for a while, feeling dizzy. She had just seen it, but couldn't quite remember what it looked like. "Strange mask," Pepper muttered softly. But that wasn't the only thing that puzzled her. This man was dressed strangely, with mysterious patterns embroidered on his robe, and the style was ancient and unique. And there was also his indifferent attitude towards Stark. "You know, Tony Stark is a world-famous rich man, arms dealer, and scientist. In the eyes of ordinary people, it is as difficult as climbing to the sky to see him. If you can get in touch with him, you will have no worries about food and clothing for the rest of your life." However, this strangely dressed man paid no attention to Stark and left him aside. When she was about to ask Stark, other people came in one after another. Pepper had to give up the idea temporarily. When the last seat was also filled, the door of the shop suddenly banged shut, ruthlessly blocking those who still wanted to come in. The mysterious man then slowly said, "Everyone is here, so let's start." Everyone present couldn't help but focus their attention. "New author and new book, please support us." Chapter 2: The Traveler. Without any pleasantries or formalities, the mysterious man skillfully produced 5 sets of potions, each consisting of 10 vials. He gently placed the 5 sets on the counter. Under the dim light of the shop, the vials shimmered with a strange blue glow, richly bubbling. The moment the wealthy guests in the seats saw the potions, their eyes lit up and they couldn't help but exclaim, "Vitality potions!" Their voices were filled with surprise and excitement, their eyes revealing an unconcealed desire. The mysterious man slowly raised his head, a smile on his face, and glanced at the wealthy guests. "It seems your guests are very satisfied with my products. As usual, the starting price for the first set of vitality potions is £5. The mysterious man's voice sounded aloof and emotionless. He paused, then smiled wickedly. "Now, the bidding begins." As soon as he finished speaking, Stark raised his hand without hesitation. £6. Stark was determined to win this set of potions. Like a flare gun, an elderly, wealthy man quickly spoke up. £8. His tone was firm, giving Stark no quarter, his face etched with determination. "Shameless old man, trying to steal the vitality potion at your age?" Stark cursed under his breath, a flicker of irritation in his eyes. and he began to raise the price. Pepper asked curiously, "Vitality potion? What is that?" She looked puzzled, clearly intrigued by the sudden frenzy surrounding the potion. "It's a magical potion. One bottle gives you a week of vitality," Stark explained simply. He then added, "One bottle will take you back to high school, with no side effects." Pepper's expression was incredulous, as if she thought it was a scam. Stark shrugged. "I wasn't scammed. I experienced it firsthand." "And how could so many astute people be scammed at the same time?" Pepper's gaze swept over the influential figures in business and politics. They were all gazing at the potions with enthusiastic eyes, as if they were the most precious treasure in the world. Finally, the elderly tycoon bid £15 for the entire set. "Why didn't you bid more?" Pepper asked, puzzled. "That's not your style." She stared intently at Stark, trying to discern the answer from his expression. "This is just one of the sets," Stark explained slowly. "One per person per set." His tone was relaxed, as if everything was under control. A flash of understanding suddenly dawned on Pepper, her eyes flickering with understanding. Sure enough, the mysterious man produced another set of the same potions. Everyone immediately engaged in a fierce scramble. Another round of scramble. After 5 rounds, the mysterious man produced a new set of potions. "Beauty potion. This potion enhances one's appearance," the mysterious figure explained calmly. His voice remained even, as if unfazed by the crowd's enthusiastic reaction. A wealthy, overweight, and extravagantly dressed woman eagerly stood up and shouted, £20. She secured the first batch of potions with a commanding lead. After several rounds of bidding, everyone was sweating, their foreheads beaded with beads of sweat, and some even licked their lips to relieve the tension and excitement. "Looks like everyone's tired. Let's take a break," the mysterious figure said. A wooden stick suddenly appeared in his hand, and with a gentle wave, goblets of red wine appeared. The goblets floated in an orderly pattern, slowly moving, finally landing precisely on the side table to each person's right hand. "No matter how many times I see it, it's still so magical," someone couldn't help but exclaim. Tony Stark took the goblets and handed them to the stunned Pepper with a smile. "What is this? Some kind of magic?" Pepper's eyes widened in disbelief. "It's magic," Tony Stark said leisurely, taking a sip of his red wine. "It's a fantastic wine, unlike anything else on the market. It would be a shame not to try it." Tony Stark narrowed his eyes slightly, a hint of intoxicated smile playing on his lips. Pepper, after taking a sip, also seemed intoxicated. As Tony Stark's assistant, she often accompanied him to various high-end wine parties and had a unique and keen appreciation for wine. This wine possessed an unparalleled exquisite taste and a long aftertaste. She said excitedly, "It's truly unique. The rich aroma is like a rich floral fragrance, lingering in the nose for a long time, and the aftertaste is even longer, like a beautiful piece of music slowly playing on the tip of the tongue." "Well, I'm right, isn't it?" Tony Stark raised an eyebrow, a hint of pride on his face. "Which winery is this from?" Pepper asked curiously, her eyes still fixed on the brilliant, jewel-like red liquid in the glass. Tony Stark shrugged helplessly, saying, "I can't find it." "It's probably the boss's personal stash." Pepper continued savoring the potion, momentarily oblivious to her surroundings, completely immersed in the exquisite culinary experience. After a short break, the mysterious figure signaled the auction to continue. As time passed, the atmosphere grew increasingly tense, as the remaining potions were running low. The bidders' enthusiasm grew, and the bidding boomed. If it weren't for the restrictions, Tony Stark would have been eager to take every single one. Under the reluctant gazes of the crowd, the mysterious figure announced the end of the auction. The crowd dispersed, the hall gradually emptied, and the door slowly closed. The mysterious figure removed his mask, revealing a youthful, chiseled, and handsome face. His features were as delicate as a sculpture, and his expression exuded confidence and wisdom. With a gentle wave of his arm, the row of suitcases in front of him automatically opened, revealing a glittering golden hue filled with gold bars. He nodded with satisfaction, his lips curling slightly. "I won't be short of funds anytime soon," he muttered to himself. "Zandy," he called softly. Bang! A slight explosion echoed. A small, peculiar creature appeared. Its small, wrinkled body and elf-like features combined to create a strange sight. It had bat-like ears, bulging green eyes the size of tennis balls, and a long, flat nose. As soon as Zandy appeared, he bowed deeply and said respectfully, "Please command, my master." "Put these gold bars away," The mysterious figure commanded. "As you command, Master." Xandi snapped his fingers, and the briefcase instantly floated into the air. Xandi bowed again and withdrew, the briefcase obediently following behind him. Wes Erwin sat quietly in his chair, pouring himself a glass of water. "It's not easy to get to this point," Wes Erwin muttered to himself. Wes Erwin was a time traveler. Originally, he was just an ordinary worker on Blue Star, leading an ordinary and busy life. After waking from a sleep, he unexpectedly found himself a 10-year-old orphan. Initially, he was overwhelmed by the transition from adult to child. He didn't know what kind of world he was in, and the people there were completely different from his own. During a tour at the orphanage, the director took the orphans to a Captain America Memorial Museum. The shrunken Wes Erwin finally woke up, realizing he was in the Marvel Universe. This dangerous and unpredictable world was far too hostile for ordinary people. Not to mention the purple potato spirit who could wipe out half of all life in the universe with a snap of his fingers. The pervasive violence and crime alone was terrifying enough. Even if faced with a minor robber, Wes Erwin felt powerless. After all, he was now a helpless foreigner in America. Gunfight every day, free America was no joke. Wes Erwin had once felt despair, even ready to give up. He even contemplated suicide, hoping to see if he could time travel again, but ultimately, he lacked the courage to act. A turning point came on his 11th birthday. In an orphanage, you couldn't expect a proper birthday. Wes Erwin was sound asleep that day when the roar of a train suddenly woke him. He was about to lose his temper, but when he opened his eyes, he was surprised to find himself inside a steam locomotive. The train was filled with children, chattering and chattering. While he was still dazed, a transparent screen suddenly appeared before his eyes. Host, Wes Erwin World, Marvel, Harry Potter Occupation? Level 0. A crudely designed panel appeared before his eyes. Wes Erwin was stunned, then overjoyed. System? Panel? Goldfinger, he excitedly probed. However, no matter how hard he tried, the panel remained unresponsive. But when the train stopped, he followed everyone off and immediately saw the majestic castle in the distance and the cheers of the people around him. Wes Erwin instantly knew where he had arrived. Hogwarts, a school of magic filled with mystery and fantasy. Chapter 3: Braised Eggs. Filled with anticipation, Wes Erwin embarked on his magical journey through the mysterious and august school of magic at Hogwarts. At the same time, he curiously explored the function of the mysterious panel. After careful investigation, he discovered that, aside from allowing him to freely travel between two worlds and accurately displaying his various attributes, the panel seemed to offer no other surprising functions. As time passed and Wes Erwin entered adulthood, he was astonished to discover that his magical powers were still growing. After all, in the wondrous world of Harry Potter, a wizard's magical power typically stagnates after reaching adulthood, reaching a relatively stable state. Wes Erwin knew full well that he didn't consider himself unique. This astonishing continued growth must be a unique ability bestowed upon him by the panel. It was a powerful ability with limitless possibilities, capable of continuous growth. Upon realizing this, Wes Erwin was ecstatic. This meant there was no limit to his power, and endless possibilities awaited him. Soon, Wes Erwin graduated from Hogwarts with undisputed first place. Unexpectedly, he turned down numerous job offers that other wizards considered impressive and tempting. His dashboard changed, and a new phrase appeared in the world column, Maze Food. Without hesitation, Wes Erwin bravely decided to explore this new world. It was a paradise for explorers, its labyrinths filled with countless magical beasts, a vast variety of precious herbs, and coveted treasures. In this world of opportunity and challenge, Wes Erwin successfully earned his first pot of wealth. Drawing on the potions and alchemy he learned at Hogwarts, he expertly crafted a variety of miraculous potions and ingenious magical items. This process not only honed his skills, furthering their refinement, but also became his primary source of income. Today, the panel displays the following: Host, Wes Erwin World, Marvel Harry Potter, Labyrinth Fan Occupation, Wizard Potioner Alchemist Level 3. Level 3 proficiency is equivalent to that of a Hogwarts professor, with the most exceptional becoming the highly respected deans of each house. Wes Erwin has reached the pinnacle of Level 3 proficiency. Benefiting from the rich and diverse resources of the three worlds, his proficiency has rapidly increased, allowing him to fully digest the vast knowledge he acquired during his 7 years at Hogwarts. However, He keenly senses that his current foundation is still insufficient to successfully reach the next level of magical advancement, level 4. His current knowledge is insufficient to fully support his pursuit of the next magical realm. I must return to Hogwarts. The tens of thousands of books in the library, filled with profound magical knowledge, are more than enough to give me the strength I need to reach level 4. I should have worked harder back then, Wes Erwin sighed. But my reputation isn't great. Will Headmaster Dumbledore approve my request? In his quest to further enhance his magical abilities, Wes Erwin had frequently rubbed shoulders with dark wizards considered evil, even violating numerous Ministry of Magic prohibitions. Headmaster Dumbledore, always well-informed, couldn't have been unaware of this. No matter what, I'm going to give it a try. I've already disposed of my stock, so I'll head to the Harry Potter world to stock up on the necessary materials. Zandy, are you ready? Wes Erwin asked loudly. Ready, my lord, he replied, steadily carrying a brown suitcase that looked much larger than it actually was. Let's go, we're heading to Diagon Alley, Wes Erwin said decisively. Yes, he replied. Then, Jandy deftly opened the suitcase and stepped inside. Strangely, the suitcase's appearance remained unchanged after the item was inside. This suitcase was Weiss's masterpiece, inspired by Newt Scamander's magical suitcase. Its interior was enchanted with powerful and practical spells, including a traceless stretching charm and a temperature-stabilizing charm, and crafted with a variety of rare and precious materials. The exterior was crafted from precious dragonhide, and even the tiny buttons were priceless. While it looked like an ordinary suitcase, its interior was incredibly spacious, housing 3 fully equipped laboratories and 5 spacious storage rooms. It was no exaggeration to say that nearly all of Weiss's wealth was stored within. Weiss picked up the precious suitcase and vanished. The mysterious Hogwarts potion shop at 7 Arthur Avenue vanished into the darkness, as if it had never existed. Sir, the potion shop has disappeared, Phil Coulson, who had been keeping a close eye on the situation, reported immediately. Got it. Come back, came the curt reply from the other end. Yes, sir, Phil Coulson replied, glancing at the spot where the potion shop stood between 6 and 8 Arthur Avenue before hurriedly leaving in his car. The car sped along, soon entering the Trident headquarters building. After stopping, Phil Coulson, without even taking a breath, strode briskly to the director's office. He stood still, carefully adjusting his slightly disheveled attire, then raised his right hand and gently knocked on the door. Knock, 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 come in, a deep voice rang from inside. Phil Coulson took a deep breath and slowly pushed the door open. The room was pitch black. Sir, honestly, I can't see you without the lights on, Phil Coulson said helplessly. The lights flickered on, revealing a head as shiny as a boiled egg. A bold black man stood with his arms crossed, glaring at Phil Coulson with a fierce gaze. He sat firmly in a plush executive chair, his commanding presence imposing as if he were in control. Phil, I hope you bring me good news, Nick Fury said, his face sullen, his gaze fixed on Phil Coulson. Phil Coulson shrugged helplessly, saying, unfortunately, it's bad news. The owner of the potion shop is indeed a magician, is that so? The bad news didn't change Nick Fury's expression, and his tone remained calm. From what I've observed, the magician seems to be only after the gold. The danger doesn't seem high at this point, Phil Coulson said cautiously. Is that your assessment? Phil, think carefully. What exactly is our responsibility? Maintaining world security and protecting the lives of ordinary people, Phil Coulson answered loudly, straightening his back and proudly. That's right, but you're actually saying that such a mysterious wizard, one who's beyond our control, poses no threat. Nick Fury's tone grew stern. Can you guarantee this wizard will remain so honest? If I weren't so short-staffed right now, I'd send you back to the academy right now to retrain. Develop your judgment. Sorry, sir. Phil Coulson lowered his head, a look of guilt on his face. Put this guy on a Class XXX observation list. Find out his true identity and all his details at all costs. Nick Fury waved his hand, issuing the order. Yes, sir. Phil Coulson quickly complied and turned to leave. Nick Fury looked out the window at the bustling yet dangerous New York, and said with deep emotion, there are endless terrorists, aliens who come to Earth as guests from time to time, and now a mysterious magician has appeared. He punched the glass and said bitterly, is there another god who will come out and say he wants to rule over mankind? Motherfucks, sir. I hope everyone will comment and give your suggestions. Chapter 4 Fairy's Deal. Diagon Alley is undoubtedly the most prosperous commercial street in the British wizarding world. Numerous top-tier brands have established flagship stores here, showcasing their unique and captivating charm. The place is bustling as always, brimming with life. A group of young wizards, happily clutching ice cream from Florin's ice cream shop, innocent smiles on their faces, chase and play with each other in the spacious streets. Weiss took a deep breath and sighed. It really feels more comfortable here, compared to the Marvel Universe. Weiss clearly felt a stronger sense of belonging to the Harry Potter universe, choosing to spend most of his time in this fantastical realm. I still have to exchange my gold for galleons, only to be exploited again by those cunning villains, Weiss muttered softly as he made his way through the bustling crowd towards Gringotts. The first door to Gringotts was a gleaming bronze gate, guarded by several goblin guards in scarlet and gold uniforms. Whenever a customer arrived, they bowed respectfully, demonstrating their professionalism and rigor. The second door was silver, prominently engraved with a warning, Diagon Alley. Enter, stranger, but beware the consequences of greed. Unsatisfied claims, unearned gains, will be punished most severely. Therefore, if you attempt to steal from our vaults a treasure that was never yours, thief, you have been warned. Beware, you will find not treasure, but retribution. Passing through these imposing silver gates, one entered a vast marble hall. Around 100 goblins sat behind a long counter, hurriedly entering various accounts and thick ledgers. Some goblins were absorbed in weighing coins on scales, ensuring each coin's weight was accurate. Others, holding eyepieces, meticulously inspected the quality and authenticity of gemstones. Within this magnificent white marble building, a bustling yet orderly atmosphere permeated the air. Well, look who's here. A shrewd-looking goblin, wearing gold-rimmed glasses, rubbed his hands together rapidly, a fawning smile plastered on his face as he bowed deeply to Weiss. Mr. Erwin, your presence always brings me joy. Augustine, you're only welcoming the gold I brought. Weiss mercilessly exposed his intentions. It's all the same, Mr. Erwin, please follow me. Augustine, unfazed by Weiss's bluntness, continued his warm invitation. Then, Augustine led Weiss into a luxuriously decorated VIP room. The attendant skillfully filled the teapot and then, respectfully and silently, withdrew. Mr. Erwin, let's begin, Augustine said eagerly. Are you in such a hurry? Weiss raised his eyebrows, appearing unhurried. There's a very true Muggle proverb, time is money, Mr. Erwin. Augustine pushed his glasses and said seriously. Weiss calmly opened the suitcase and gently waved his wand. In an instant, golden bars flew out of it and were neatly stacked together. Oh! The smell of gold is so charming. Augustine's eyes lit up instantly, and he said with an obsessed look. Then he quickly put on white gloves, took out a magic prop shaped like a needle, and carefully placed it on the gold bar. In an instant, the magic prop burst into dazzling light. Great, 99% pure gold, top quality. Augustine was so excited that he couldn't help but exclaim loudly. Same old news. Weiss took a sip of his black tea, then frowned, disapprovingly saying, Augustine, your tea is awful, and I'm your VIP customer. As long as the tea quenches my thirst, it's fine. By the way, aren't you planning on keeping your money at Gringotts? I can get you a higher interest rate, Augustine continued to tempt. No, Weiss refused without hesitation. I'll spend all this money soon. I don't like saving. What a shame, Augustine said, seeing his persuasion was futile. Just then, several goblins entered, laboriously carrying a massive scale. You fools, be careful. If you break this treasure, I'll sell you to the dark wizards, Augustine shouted. The goblins shuddered at his words, their movements becoming even more cautious. Weiss was used to this kind of situation. After the scale was set firmly in its place, the goblins hurried away, not even looking up, as if fleeing for their lives. With a flick of his wrist, Weiss's gold bars seemed to come alive, rapidly flying to one tray on the scale. On the other tray, weights appeared one after another, until both sides finally reached equilibrium. Then, a startling number appeared above the scale. Augustine swiftly wrote it down on a carefully prepared contract. Mr. Erwin, if you're sure there are no problems, please sign your name. A very fair price. Weiss, without hesitation, picked up the pen and signed his name with a flourish. Augustine, seeing this, snapped his fingers elegantly, and the contracts vanished without a trace. Please follow me, Augustine said, turning without hesitation to lead the way. Together, they entered a slightly old-looking elevator, which then descended continuously. Ding! The elevator door slowly opened, revealing the deepest part of the earth, undoubtedly, the location of Gringotts Vault. The place was filled with intricate mechanisms, countless magical lights flickered, and mysterious curses surged in the shadows. Even a massive fire dragon guarded it. The goblins had always claimed it was the safest place in the world. Most wizards in the British wizarding world, including the most prominent pure-blood families, trusted their wealth there. However, Weiss, by comparison, trusted his own abilities to safeguard his wealth. The two of them boarded a somewhat old-looking minecart and, after a thrilling roller coaster ride, finally arrived outside the vault. They then underwent a complex and tedious verification process, including rigorous identity verification, meticulous contract verification, and precise magical proving. Finally, Augustine carefully inserted the key into the lock. Click, click, with a slow, heavy sound of mechanical turning, the intricate and exquisite vault door swung open. Experienced Weiss quickly opened the suitcase. Then, countless galleons flew out of the vault like a tide, methodically tucked into Weiss's suitcase. As the last galleon landed securely in the suitcase, the vault door slowly closed. After leaving Gringotts, Weiss went on a shopping spree. He first entered Slug and Ginz's pharmacy, browsing the dazzling shelves and meticulously purchasing a wide variety of herbs and precious materials. He then made his way to ink and stationery, carefully selecting fine parchment, high-quality ink, and exquisitely crafted automatic quills. After thoroughly combing Diagon Alley, Weiss still had a look of unsatisfied satisfaction on his face. To avoid unnecessary trouble, Weiss donned a mask and a simple disguise before heading to the mysterious and dangerous Nocturne Alley. Diagon Alley represents the bright and orderly side of the British wizarding world, while Nocturne Alley represents its dark, chaotic, and lawless underbelly. It's a murky, chaotic place, home to shady thieves, ruthless poachers, evil dark wizards, and even the dreaded Death Eaters. Almost everything sold here violates wizarding laws and moral codes, including rare organs from protected magical creatures, dark magic tools imbued with sinister power, and gruesome human body parts. Weiss, familiar with the area, arrived at Borgen and Burke's with ease, searching the shop with high expectations. However, he was bitterly disappointed. There wasn't anything in the shop that caught his eye. Having money but not being able to spend it is a painful and frustrating experience. If you like this book, please share it. I'd appreciate your support. Chapter 5 Letters from Hogwarts. Amidst the vast Scottish Highlands, the mysterious and ancient Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry stands majestically. This millennia-old school stands as a silent witness to the tumultuous rise and fall of the wizarding world in Britain and across Europe. The current headmaster, Albus Dumbledore, Order of Merlin, First Class, founder and secret keeper of the Order of the Phoenix, is also president of the International Confederation of Magicians and chief warlock of the Wizengamot. He possesses profound mastery in alchemy and transfiguration, reaching levels unmatched by ordinary men. Through his wisdom and dedication, he has made significant and profound contributions to the vast field of magical theory. However, his most remarkable achievement is undoubtedly his defeats of two feared Dark Lords, Gellert Grindelwald and Voldemort. For this reason, he is undeniably recognized throughout the wizarding world as the greatest and most powerful wizard of our time. Yet, at that moment, this man, already nearly 110 years old, was obediently accepting a reprimand like a child who had accidentally done something wrong. Is your head full of honey, Dumbledore? If that were the case, Severus would be so happy. Call me Professor Snape. Yes, Snape. Dumbledore smiled and handed Snape a piece of tempting lemon sherbet, saying kindly, would you like to try one? It's carefully made by Muggles, and it tastes quite good. In response, Snape gave him a murderous glare. Dumbledore reluctantly took the candy back, muttering, what a shame, Severus, why are you so adamantly opposed to Mr. Irving teaching at Hogwarts? You were quite considerate of him back then. Don't say you don't know what he's done since graduation. Of course I know. Mr. Irving is a wizard full of a fearless and adventurous spirit. He frequently deals with those evil dark wizards. Breaking the law is as commonplace to him as drinking water, but we don't have any concrete evidence to prove this. This just goes to show how cunning he is. He's exactly like that guy. Dumbledore looked at Snape earnestly and seriously. You're overly suspicious. Snape pursed his lips tightly, saying nothing. It seems neither of us can successfully convince the other. How about I invite Mr. Irving over so we can question him face to face? Dumbledore quickly wrote a letter with a delicate quill. "I'll supervise the entire process, no problem." Dumbledore then handed the envelope to an owl and gently opened the window. The owl, clutching the envelope steadily, spread its wings and flew away, disappearing into the distant sky. Weiss was absorbed in a paper, a recently published paper by Professor Minerva McGonagall that delved into the depths of transfiguration. As one of only a handful of registered animagus in the wizarding world, Professor Minerva McGonagall was undoubtedly a master of transfiguration. Weiss was completely absorbed in the paper, lost in a magical world. She was so absorbed in it that she didn't even notice the repeated banging on the window. Finally, Jandy hurriedly opened the window and carefully let the owl in. The owl flapped its wings angrily and hooted incessantly, expressing its intense dissatisfaction. "Oh, keep your voice down, little one. It's not nice to disturb your master." Jandy pulled out a handful of premium pet rations. The owl, scenting the alluring aroma, eagerly swooped over to savor them. Once it had its fill, it nuzzled Jandy affectionately, then dropped the envelope, flapped its wings, and flew away. Jandy quickly picked up the envelope, carefully scrutinized the signature, and respectfully handed it to Weiss. "Master, it's from Hogwarts." Weiss, initially displeased at being disturbed, suddenly lit up when he heard it was from Hogwarts. Without hesitation, he dropped his paper and swiftly tore open the envelope. "Mr. Wes Erwin, we're delighted to have you apply again for the position of Professor of Spellbrush. After careful consideration, we invite you to the headmaster's office tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock for an interview. All the best, Albus Dumbledore." "Oh, wonderful!" Wes danced with excitement, his face beaming with uncontrollable joy. After 3 years, finally a reply. "Congratulations, Master." Jandy, a highly competent house elf, offered his master heartfelt blessings. "We must make every effort to ensure it's absolutely perfect." Wes's eyes were determined. This time, he was determined to succeed. The next day, at 8 o'clock, Wes stood in front of the mirror, examining himself carefully. The reflection revealed a clean-cut, high-spirited young man, his hair meticulously combed, delicate and smooth. His well-tailored robes perfectly framed his tall, slender figure, and his handsome face made him appear even more captivating. "How is it?" Wes asked expectantly. "Perfect, my lord." A charming smile played across Weiss's lips as he picked up the suitcase beside him. "Wait here, as you command, Lord." When Weiss arrived at Hogwarts at 9:30, he was greeted by Professor McGonagall. Wes was flattered and bowed deeply. "Long time no see, Professor McGonagall. Mr. Irving, you've grown into a remarkable young man," Professor McGonagall praised gently, smiling. "I never imagined that we could become colleagues one day." "That ultimately depends on what Headmaster Dumbledore decides," Weiss said, a little embarrassed. "You're a bright and clever child, and you've excelled in school. If Albus had been clear-headed and not lost, he should have accepted your job offer. I hope everything is as you say, Mr. Irving. Please call me Weiss." Professor McGonagall. "Very well, Weiss. How does it feel to be back on campus?" Weiss's face showed a hint of emotion. "It's both familiar and strange. When I was a student, I didn't really explore this mysterious castle. I spent all day immersed in the library and studying magic." "Yes, that's very impressive," Professor McGonagall said slowly. "No student has ever been as studious as you, even for a Ravenclaw." "That's a bit exaggerated." Weiss touched his nose sheepishly. "You harassed us professors quite a bit back then." Despite saying this, Professor McGonagall had always been very considerate of studious students like Weiss, often giving him private tutoring. The other professors were the same way. Even the usually strict Professor Snape had a special regard for Weiss. "By the way, does Phileas know about this?" "Not yet. I want to tell him after everything is confirmed." While the two were talking, they had unknowingly arrived at the 8th floor. The huge and hideous stone beast guard in the principal's office suddenly spoke. "Password, Toffee," Professor McGonagall answered calmly. The stone beast obediently made way. Behind the stone beast was a slowly rotating automatic spiral staircase, and at the top of the stairs was the door to the principal's office. It was a door made of shiny oak, inlaid with a unique brass door knocker in the shape of a lion's body and an eagle's head. As the two approached, the door slowly opened automatically. Looking at the open door, Wes felt a little nervous in his heart. "If you like it, please collect and recommend it. I would like to thank the book friends who have recommended and collected it." Chapter 6 Sincerity is the only sure win weapon. "Wes, come in." "Headmaster Dumbledore is waiting for you," said Professor McGonagall. "I have other important matters to attend to, so I'll be leaving now." "Thank you, Professor McGonagall. If I have time, I'd like to ask you about Transfiguration. Your paper is truly brilliant and has benefited me greatly." After Professor McGonagall left, Wes entered the door with trepidation. It was a spacious circular room, its walls covered with portraits of former headmasters, each snoring softly within their frames. The room was also decorated with exquisite silverware, exuding a mysterious and captivating luster. Wes looked around but didn't see Dumbledore's much-celebrated pet, Fawkes, the Phoenix. He had no idea that, besides Headmaster Dumbledore, Professor Snape would also be waiting for him. He hurried forward and said apologetically, "I'm so sorry to have kept you waiting." Dumbledore smiled and gestured for him to sit down. "Mr. Irving, you're very punctual. If you're prepared, I think we can begin the interview as soon as possible. You understand that as headmaster, I have a mountain of work to deal with every day." Dumbledore said this with a playful wink. Snape, however, sneered in disdain. "Don't worry about Professor Snape, he's just here to sit in." "Yes, headmaster, I think I'm fully prepared. The next questions may touch on some personal matters, but I hope you can answer them truthfully." "No problem, headmaster." "Then, Mr. Irving, could you tell me why you're applying for this professorship? You know, the salary isn't very high. Even the monthly salary wouldn't cover the cost of your luxurious robes." Weiss frowned slightly, thought for a moment, and decided to answer truthfully. He knew full well that his lies would be exposed before these two top legilimency masters. "My goal is actually very simple, to return to Hogwarts." "Oh," Dumbledore gestured for Weiss to elaborate with interest. "After graduation, I went on a series of adventures. Throughout this process, I realized how little I had learned at school. No one else will impart knowledge to me with the same unreserved and meticulous care you professors have. I've reached an impenetrable bottleneck in my magical explorations, and I believe that only returning to Hogwarts, with its largest library in Europe, can help me break free." Weiss spoke his true motives with remarkable frankness. "So you're willing to take such great risks, interact with dark wizards, and even violate regulations by exploring dangerous ruins?" Professor Snape suddenly interrupted, his deep eyes fixed on Weiss with a scrutinizing gaze. His eyes seemed empty, and though he was questioning, it was difficult to discern his true emotions. "Indeed," Weiss replied without hesitation. Having received the answer he was looking for, Professor Snape fell silent. "You are quite honest, Mr. Irving," Dumbledore said, pushing his glasses up on the tip of his nose, his expression slightly serious. "I've heard some unfavorable rumors about you, and to be honest, they really shocked me. If there were solid evidence, you would probably be imprisoned in Azkaban by the Ministry of Magic without mercy." "The Ministry of Magic is a pile of shit in my opinion." Weiss was not at all frightened by Dumbledore's words. Instead, he spoke passionately. "Those people are completely unworthy of being called wizards." Dumbledore and Professor Snape were clearly not expecting Weiss to be so blunt. "It seems that Mr. Irving has a strong grudge against the Ministry of Magic. Last year, I almost became Minister of Magic," Dumbledore joked with a hint of humor. "That's impossible," Weiss said with absolute certainty. "A truly intelligent wizard will wisely stay away from politics, because those dirty and foolish politics will taint the pure soul of a wizard." "Oh," Dumbledore couldn't help but be surprised. "That's a remarkable insight. You see, it took me decades to grasp this truth, yet you, Mr. Irving, have grasped it at such a young age." "Perhaps it's because I'm a Muggle-born," Weiss patiently explained. "Magic has been nothing short of a miracle for me. It has completely changed my destiny." "Destiny?" Dumbledore's expression grew somewhat unreadable. "Well, one last question, Mr. Irving. Do you know who?" "You know who?" "You're talking about Voldemort, right?" Professor Snape, sitting nearby, shuddered slightly at the name. However, he concealed the subtle shift so well that neither Dumbledore nor Weiss noticed. "Aren't you afraid of such a terrifying being?" Dumbledore looked at Weiss pointedly. Weiss remained calm. "Why should I be afraid of a man who has already failed?" Professor Snape's expression finally shifted noticeably. "Your courage truly astonishes me, Mr. Irving," Dumbledore praised generously. "It's been almost 11 years, and few in the wizarding world today dare to mention him directly. Everyone just calls him you-know-who." Weiss shrugged nonchalantly. "Perhaps it's because I come from the Muggle world." Dumbledore pondered for a moment, then said, "You're hired, Mr. Irving." Weiss excitedly stood up and shook Dumbledore's hand tightly. Excellent, Headmaster Dumbledore. I will definitely work hard to become a qualified teacher. Don't be too excited yet. Rune is a rather unpopular subject, and there probably won't be many students taking it. So, as for your salary, no problem, Headmaster, I don't care about the salary. After the two successfully signed the contract, Weiss happily left. Dumbledore and Snape were the only ones left in the office. He's very dangerous, Snape said gravely. He's simply too pure, Dumbledore said slowly. He needs the right guidance. Given time, he might become a formidable force against Tom. Snape unconsciously touched the dark mark on his arm. He shows no reverence for you-know-who, and my dark mark shows no reaction. He's definitely not a Death Eater, then we must find a way to win him over to our side, Severus. I'm growing old, and Tom is about to make a comeback. We need more strength. A momentary silence fell. Snape stood up and left, leaving behind a single thought, I hope you're right. Back at the hotel, Weiss was in high spirits, eagerly preparing his lesson plans. He was in a state of intense excitement. He raced against time to prepare the lesson plans for the new semester before the start of the new semester, eagerly awaiting the impending start of the term. Chapter 7, First Day of School, Lively Ceremony. The annual start of the school year arrived as expected, and Platform 9 and 3/4 was now packed with students and parents coming to see them off. A cacophony of voices rose and fell, creating a bustling scene. What a nostalgic scene. A few years ago, Wes had been one of those students. Now, as a professor, he boarded the Hogwarts Express, a scene that filled him with emotion. Wes boarded the train with a leisurely pace and entered the single-person compartment reserved for professors. The moment the doors closed, it was as if an invisible barrier instantly blocked out all the outside noise. Presumably, the doors must have been enchanted with some kind of soundproofing magic to achieve this effect. Wes nodded with satisfaction, then quickly pulled out his paper and began to work intently, scribbling something in his notebook with a look of intense concentration. Woo-woo, as steam billowed from the locomotive's chimney, the train slowly began to move, and a train filled with expectant and yearning students headed towards Hogwarts. Just as Wes was completely absorbed in his studies, there was a sudden, rapid knock on the door. Wes frowned slightly, raised his head with displeasure, and said helplessly, "Come in." The door gently opened, revealing two children, a boy and a girl, standing timidly in front of it. The boy cowered behind the girl, and when he saw that it was an adult, his body trembled even more violently, his head buried deep in his chest, as if trying to hide himself. The girl had clearly not expected to encounter an adult on a train filled almost entirely with students, and in a separate carriage at that. "Sir, have you seen a toad?" "Neville's toad is missing." Neville tugged cautiously at the corner of her clothes and said cautiously, "This gentleman should be a professor at Hogwarts. We should be polite." "I'm sorry, sir." The sharp-eyed Hermione saw the paper on the table at a glance and became excited instantly. "Sir, are you studying magic?" "That's great. I have never seen real magic research before." "Is that possible?" Hermione's mouth was like a machine gun, blurting out questions one after another. She was so excited that she completely forgot the original purpose of her visit. Weiss felt her head swelling and had a headache. She had to interrupt Hermione. "I'm sorry, miss, I don't know who you are. My name is Hermione Granger, he is Neville Longbottom. We are both first-year students at Hogwarts." Hermione did not seem nervous at all in the face of the adult's questions, and introduced herself generously. "Miss Granger, I didn't see any toads. And, as you can see, I'm busy. Could you please close the door, please?" "Thank you." With that, Weiss stopped looking at the two and returned his attention to his paper. "Excuse me, sir, for disturbing you." Before Hermione could continue, Neville, displaying agility belying his size, swiftly dragged Hermione out of the carriage, not forgetting to close the door. Hermione pouted, her face filled with anger and grievance. "What? How can such a cold-hearted person be a professor?" With that, she turned away in a huff, her short legs stalking off, Neville following silently. Without the two interruptions, Weiss remained absorbed in his studies until the train finally landed. After getting off the train, Weiss walked briskly and quickly arrived at Hogwarts. He reached his office on the 7th floor. The room was sparsely furnished, but immaculately kept. Weiss opened the suitcase, and Jandy emerged. "I've already agreed with Headmaster Dumbledore that you may move freely about Hogwarts during my tenure, but please remember not to disturb the other professors or students." "As you command, Master." Weiss donned a brand new robe and stood before the mirror, examining himself carefully. "I have to go to the opening ceremony. Please clean up here." The Great Hall of Hogwarts was magnificent, its soaring ceiling seemingly reaching up to the boundless starry sky. Intricate magic mimicked the vast night sky, with twinkling stars gleaming like countless brilliant gems. 4 large, long tables were neatly arranged, each occupied by students from one of the 4 houses. Large portraits of past headmasters and headmasters hung on the walls, their lifelike expressions seeming to silently observe everything going on below. The floor was paved with smooth, mirror-like marble, reflecting people's figures clearly, like a giant mirror. The flags of the 4 major houses hung in the hall's 4 corners, red for Gryffindor, green for Slytherin, blue for Ravenclaw, and yellow for Hufflepuff. The banners fluttered gently in the breeze, gracefully displaying the glory of their respective houses. Hundreds of candles gracefully hung in the air, emitting a warm, soft glow that illuminated the entire hall as bright as day. Students, dressed in their vibrant house robes, sat at 4 long tables, their faces beaming with excitement and anticipation. Weiss's arrival instantly caught everyone's attention. "Who's he? Silly, he must be the new professor. Didn't you see he's sitting with the professors, so young, so handsome?" A group of young witches chattered at Weiss, their eyes filled with admiration. Flitwick excitedly stood on tiptoe, trying to give Weiss a big hug, but he was too short, so Weiss had to bend down slightly to accommodate his movements. "Long time no see, Headmaster," Flitwick beamed, patting Weiss's arm affectionately. "Oh, my most proud student has returned to Hogwarts as a professor. How does it feel?" "Absolutely wonderful." Weiss's eyes sparkled with excitement. "After graduation, I can't stop thinking about coming back here, Headmaster. I doubt you'd make a good professor." Mr. Irving, Snape's distinctive, eerie accent drifted over. "Don't listen to Snape, you'd be a good professor," Flitwick smiled, taking Weiss's hand and enthusiastically introducing him to the other professors. In fact, he didn't need any introductions, the professors all had deep memories of Weiss, a diligent student. The professors welcomed Weiss, heartfelt delight at the return of this outstanding graduate. Weiss also met Quirinus Quirrell, the new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher. Professor Quirrell wore a purple turban, which exuded a strange smell that made people give him a wide berth. However, at this moment, he was clinging to Snape, mumbling something non-stop. The doors opened, and the first-year students filed in an orderly line. The Sorting Hat, perched on a chair in the middle of the hall, suddenly burst into song with great enthusiasm. However, its unique voice was difficult to appreciate. The annual sorting ceremony had begun. Besides the amusing sight of the freshmen fumbling with nervousness, this year everyone's attention was focused on the boy who lived. When the Sorting Hat, after some deliberation, finally declared Harry Potter Gryffindor, the Gryffindor students erupted in a deafening cheer so loud it threatened to rip the castle roof off. Professor McGonagall beamed, and even the usually solemn Dumbledore smiled with satisfaction. Snape's expression darkened. But none of this concerned Weiss. Under Dumbledore's direction, everyone sang the Hogwarts school song with their favorite tunes. The scene was like a magical sound filling, and Weiss wanted to immediately block his ears with a spell. Afterwards, Dumbledore solemnly talked about some things that needed to be paid attention to in the new semester, and solemnly introduced the 2 new professors to the students, and then announced that everyone could start a happy meal. After the opening ceremony, Weiss quietly breathed a sigh of relief. He actually didn't like an environment with too many people and too much noise. Fortunately, the course he taught was very unpopular, and there were not many students who chose to take it, which made him feel a little fortunate. Everyone is welcome to comment actively. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 8 Lesson 1. The next morning, soft sunlight streamed through the window into Weiss's office. He was gazing intently at the course schedule in his hand, a look of utter satisfaction on his face. As he had expected, Rune was undoubtedly an extremely unpopular course. Fewer than 30 students had chosen it, and it only had 3 classes a week. Weiss excitedly clapped his hands against his legs, exclaiming, "Great!" However, despite this, Weiss wasn't about to take this hard-earned job lightly. While he didn't have the meticulously prepared lesson plans of other professors, he was determined to prepare thoroughly for his first class. After all, It was his first class at Hogwarts, and he didn't want to receive a barrage of complaints right from the start, leading to expulsion. First period is at 3 p.m., so I must prepare thoroughly and with all my heart. In the blink of an eye, it was already afternoon. Weiss walked briskly into the classroom and was pleasantly surprised to find the students already seated in their seats. What surprised Wes was that Hermione, a freshman who had just entered the magical world, had also chosen spell runes. He calmly picked up a piece of chalk and wrote his name on the blackboard in bold, vigorous strokes. Wes Erwin. First of all, I want to sincerely thank you all for choosing spell runes. Secondly, please introduce yourselves in turn. After all, there aren't many of us, and I'm confident I can remember everyone's names. As he finished speaking, a burst of cheerful laughter rang out from the audience. The students began to introduce themselves one by one in an orderly manner. When it was Hermione's turn, everyone's eyes were fixed on her. After all, the other students present were all in their 5th year or above, already possessing a basic understanding of magic and some familiarity with spell runes. It was truly surprising that Hermione, a freshman from a Muggle family, would choose such an unpopular and challenging course. Like a proud and confident peacock, she kept her sparkling eyes fixed on Wes the entire time she introduced herself. After the self-introductions, Weiss began his formal lecture. Magic runes are an ancient and mysterious entity. His voice echoed through the classroom, and every student quickly opened their books, their faces focused, and diligently took notes. Throughout his lecture, Weiss skillfully interspersed stories from his own adventures. The fascinating plots drawing frequent gasps of surprise from the students. In general, magical runes have a wide range of applications. Whether it's setting traps, strengthening defenses, issuing warnings, or even in the advanced art of alchemy, their ingenious use is indispensable. If you have any questions during the course, feel free to ask. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone eagerly raised their hands. Oh, that's more than I expected. Weiss glanced at the clock on the wall and said, fortunately, we have plenty of time. So, each person will have one question. Weiss casually pointed to the boy in the first row on his left and said, Mr. Wesley, starting with you. Upon hearing the voice, Wesley quickly stood up. Please sit down, Mr. Wesley, and let's all relax a little. Wesley leaned leisurely on the podium and said with a smile. Wesley shrugged and sat back in his chair obediently. Professor, did the adventures you described really happen? Of course. Wesley nodded without hesitation. Another round of exclamations rang out in the classroom. Wesley wanted to continue asking questions, but was stopped by Wesley. One question per person, Mr. Wesley. Wesley closed his mouth helplessly. The girl behind him asked impatiently, Professor, have you found any precious treasures during your adventures? Everyone pricked up their ears, eagerly anticipating the answer. Wesley stood up, turned around gracefully, and said, Professor's meager salary can't afford the luxurious robes I'm wearing. Wesley's thoughts instantly drifted back to the difficult days of exploring the maze. I must solemnly warn you that this is extremely dangerous, he said, looking worriedly at the group of curious young wizards before him, deliberately threatening them. One careless mistake could cost you your precious life. His words had a truly intimidating effect, and for a moment, the children fell silent. However, a few daring students continued to ask questions related to adventure, until the crisp bell rang. All right, ladies and gentlemen, time to dismiss, Weiss said, smiling, signaling the end of the class. Hermione, however, raised her hand high. Miss Granger, Professor, you haven't assigned any homework yet. All the students glared at Hermione with murderous glares. Weiss shrugged helplessly. I don't want to lose my few students. What are you waiting for? Upon hearing this, the students hurriedly gathered their books and hurried out of the classroom. Everyone was delighted and cheered because they had no homework, except for Hermione, who looked gloomy. A month had passed in a flash. Wes had adapted to the professor's routine, teaching only 3 classes a week, assigning homework once a week, and meticulously grading students' essays. Some of the ideas presented in the students' essays, while somewhat naive, had certainly inspired Wes. The library had become a frequent haunt for Wes over the past month. The students were amazed to discover that this young professor was even more diligent and hard-working than they were, and there was a flurry of discussion. Unexpectedly, this had unexpectedly fostered a strong learning atmosphere. This weekend, Wes had rarely gone to the library, opting instead for Hagrid's cabin. Upon seeing Wes, Hagrid gave him a hearty hug. Wes, oh, I should call you Professor Erwin now, come on, Hagrid, calling me Wes is more approachable. The two seem to have a close relationship. Hagrid happily invited Wes to try some of his homemade rock cakes. Looking at the rock cake, which seemed so hard it could shatter stone, Wes politely declined. It was late autumn, and the logs in the treehouse's fireplace crackled with a gentle crackling. Hagrid's beloved dog, Fang, a sensitive yet timid one, lay comfortably on the rug, enjoying Wes's gentle caress. Wes surveyed the cabin carefully. The decor was rough and unrestrained, even a bit Spartan. Yet, everywhere, there were the soft hairs and shed, hard horns of rare and precious magical animals, hard-to-find materials. Wes was even surprised to see the hair of the legendary unicorn. Only Hagrid, a dedicated warden of the Forbidden Forest, could have amassed such a priceless collection. Hagrid was undoubtedly a master in the field of magical creatures. However, for reasons unknown, he was confined to the mundane positions of keykeeper and warden of the Forbidden Forest, earning a pittance that made him think twice before even ordering a beer at the bar. Wes gently stroked the precious furs on the ground, thinking to himself that if Hagrid had been more flexible, he would have made a fortune reselling these rare materials. But Hagrid was simple-minded and unwaveringly loyal to Hogwarts and Headmaster Dumbledore, and would never do such a thing that violated his principles. Hagrid, have you ever thought about improving your life a little? Improve my life? Why? I think I'm doing fine now. I'm happy every day. Hagrid's face was full of confusion. Wes swallowed the words that were on the tip of his tongue. Nothing, just treat it as my nonsense. The two of them, over steaming cups of tea, excitedly recounted their fascinating experiences. As Wes vividly described the strange creatures he encountered on his adventures, Hagrid's eyes lit up with excitement, as if he were there himself. It was getting dark soon, and Wes politely declined Hagrid's invitation to have dinner with him. His fragile and sensitive stomach was really not good enough to enjoy the unique food cooked by the half-giant. Thank you for your support. Chapter 9 Halloween Incident. On Halloween night, Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry held a grand gala. In the dining hall, numerous jack-o'-lanterns of various shapes slowly floated in the air, emitting a mysterious yet warm glow. The Weasley twins had ingeniously dressed themselves as vampires. Their lifelike fangs and sinister attire made them appear particularly terrifying, designed to frighten their classmates. Laughter echoed throughout the hall. The professors sat together, happily and engaged in conversation. Professor Snape, however, seemed absent-minded, his face sullen, at odds with a joyful atmosphere. "It's wonderful to be young," Professor McGonagall said, gazing lovingly at the energetic students with a hint of wistfulness. "I used to wonder what life would be like if I had a child." "You'd make an incredible mother," Wes said sincerely. "Come on." Professor McGonagall waved her hand gently, a look of resignation on her face. "Children don't like me. Those naughty ones would probably run away from me. Most children nowadays don't understand that strictness is actually a form of deep love. When they enter society and experience the ups and downs of life, they will be deeply grateful for your guidance." Weiss's words were half sincere praise and half flattery. "When did you become so good at talking?" Professor McGonagall said with a smile on her face. "I wonder how many girls have been fooled by your eloquence." Weiss shrugged lightly, her face calm and composed. "No way." Professor McGonagall covered her mouth with her hand in surprise, her eyes wide. "Wes, you haven't even had a relationship yet. At Hogwarts, many young wizards and witches have their first relationship by the age of 15 or 16. Weiss's situation was as rare as the legendary unicorn. Some professors even looked at him with sympathy. "Don't feel sorry for me," Weiss said calmly as he skillfully cut off a small piece of steak. "The magical world is so vast, it's worth my lifelong exploration." Pomona Slough couldn't help but shed tears when she heard this, and choked up and said, "Poor Weiss, he has never tasted the sweetness of love." Dumbledore suddenly interrupted and said, "Do you need Severus to help you prepare some love potion?" "Shut up, Albus," Professor McGonagall said loudly with a serious look. "Don't come up with such ridiculous ideas again." Weiss put down the knife and fork in his hand, sighed softly, and said, "Principal, I am also good at making potions. Although I can't compare with the superb skills of Professor Snape, the master of potions, I also know clearly that love potions are illegal potions." "Really?" Dumbledore showed an aggrieved expression on his face and muttered, "Once people get older, their memory gets worse and worse." Weiss wouldn't believe Dumbledore's nonsense. Just as the professors were enthusiastically discussing finding a good girl for Weiss, Professor Quirrell suddenly rushed into the Great Hall, a look of panic on his face. His large scarf was tilted askew, and his face was filled with fear. The troll is in the basement." With these words, his legs gave way, and he fell headfirst to the floor, fainting instantly. Instantly, the great hall erupted in chaos. Professor Dumbledore had to summon his magic and shout at the top of his lungs to quiet everyone down. He quickly instructed the prefects to safely escort the students to their dormitories, while the professors accompanied him to the basement to investigate. After all the students had left, Dumbledore led the professors to the basement. Before they could even enter, they heard the sounds of a fierce struggle coming from the direction of the girls' bathroom. The professors immediately changed direction and hurried towards the bathroom. As they approached, a sickening odor assaulted their nostrils, a rancid, pungent mixture of stinky socks and an unwashed public toilet. Everyone knew it was the unbearable, unique smell of a troll. The professors quickly drew their wands and took precautions. Entering the women's bathroom, they found it completely wrecked and in shambles. A gigantic troll lay helpless on the floor. Hermione sat on the ground, tears streaming down her face. Harry and Ron stood by her, whispering solace. "Oh my God," Professor McGonagall exclaimed. "Can someone tell me what just happened?" Weiss waved her wand and cast a spell. A powerful whirlwind swept up, carrying the overwhelming stench and blasting open the window. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Ron, still unaware of the severity of the situation, danced excitedly, recounting the entire story of how he and Harry had heroically saved the girl. Instead, he was met with Professor Snape's merciless, venomous attack. "Are your brains filled with feces? I've never encountered students as foolish as you in all my years." Professor McGonagall, her expression serious, began to lecture the three harshly. "Why didn't you notify the professor immediately? Do you think we're untrustworthy?" Hermione weakly stood up, sobbing and choking. "I accidentally attracted the troll. If they hadn't found me in time, I would be dead by now. The troll was about to devour me when they arrived. Miss Granger, I thought you were the least worrying student in this class." Professor McGonagall's disappointed tone made Hermione drop her head in shame. 5 points from Gryffindor for your reckless behavior. Professor McGonagall made the ruthless decision. The three people's expressions instantly turned dejected when they heard the deduction, especially Hermione, who blamed herself and tears welled up in her eyes. However, as first years, you bravely fought the troll. Harry and Ron each earned 5 points for Gryffindor for your outstanding performance. Upon hearing this, the three of them immediately turned from their worries to joy, excitedly high-fiving each other. "All right, check for any injuries." Pomona Slot stepped forward and carefully examined the three. After confirming that they were all fine, she told them to go back to rest. The troll continued to emit a foul odor, and in just a moment, the acrid smell filled the room again. Professor McGonagall and the other professors, unable to tolerate the nauseating smell, hurriedly left. Only Weiss, Dumbledore, and Snape were left. "What are you doing here?" Snape looked at Weiss with disdain. Weiss calmly said, "I wanted to see if there was anything I could do to help," but his eyes remained fixed on the troll's body. After all, many parts of a troll are valuable raw materials for alchemy and potions. It's so rare to come across one, and Wes couldn't help but be tempted. However, Snape was always wary of Wes. "You're not needed here. Please leave immediately." Dumbledore, who had been silent just moments before, suddenly said, "Can you give us a little privacy?" Wes had no choice but to leave in frustration. Leaving behind a message, "I can buy troll parts at a high price, and I'm also willing to help with any dissections you need. Trust me, I have extensive experience." Chapter 10. Who is the criminal? "Wes, aren't you going to the Quidditch match?" Hagrid asked curiously, gazing at Wes, who lay slumped on the carpet with a relaxed expression. Ever since his last visit, Hagrid's cozy, unique treehouse had become Wes's perfect place to relax. Sometimes he'd immerse himself in a book, sometimes absorbed in brewing a potion. Whenever he felt tired, he'd come here to rest. Perhaps it was the dazzling array of rare materials displayed in the treehouse that made even just quietly admiring them so satisfying. But every time he visited, Wes thoughtfully brought a few bottles of fine wine. Hagrid casually picked up a bottle of red wine, flicked it with a flick of his finger, and the cork flew out with a whoosh. Without a word, he guzzled it down, emptying the entire bottle in a few gulps, leaving stains dotted across his bushy beard. At that moment, the door, made of sturdy wood, flung open, and Harry, Ron, and Hermione rushed in, all in a hurry. "Hagrid, Harry almost got killed today," Hermione shouted anxiously. "That's right," Ron echoed, his voice filled with nervousness. The three of them couldn't help but shout. Hagrid stared at him with his still hazy eyes, his face filled with bewilderment. What are you talking about? I don't understand a single thing." He lost his grip on the bottle of red wine. It fell to the ground with a thud, and the wine gushed out. Yeah, who was enjoying a massage from Wes, heard the noise and immediately rushed over excitedly, happily and greedily licking up the red wine that had spilled onto the ground. Seeing this, Hagrid quickly bent down to pick up the bottle of red wine, muttering, "Hey, you naughty little thing, this is fine wine, don't let it go to waste like this." At this moment, his attention was completely distracted by the red wine and Fang. "Red wine?" Hermione asked seriously, hands on her hips. "Hagrid, I remember clearly that you were supposed to be patrolling near the stadium today. Why are you hiding at home drinking now?" "Oh, well," Hagrid's eyes darted around, and an idea suddenly hit him, slapping his head. "It was Wes who wanted to talk to me. We were discussing something important. I'm not absent from work for no reason." Only then did the three of them notice Wes lying on the carpet. "Professor Erwin." The three of them exchanged glances and shouted in unison, not expecting to encounter this new professor here. Weiss waved casually at the three of them. "Don't mind me. Just pretend I don't exist. By the way, didn't you just say Harry was almost killed?" "What happened?" Hagrid asked anxiously. Hermione, not even taking a breath, recounted the thrilling scene on the field in detail, firmly deducing that Snape was the prime suspect. "Impossible," Hagrid exclaimed, waving his hands excitedly. "Professor Snape would never do anything to hurt Harry, but he seems to really hate me." Harry frowned, looking aggrieved, clearly believing Hermione's theory. "Yes, I saw Professor Snape cast a spell on Harry's broomstick with my own eyes. Then, after I burned his robes, the broom immediately returned to normal," Hermione added eagerly, her expression serious. "Yes, that's exactly what happened," Ron nodded vigorously, his eyes firmly agreeing. Weiss couldn't help but burst out laughing as he listened to their conversation. Hermione, like a proud swan, held her head high and said angrily, "Professor Irving doesn't believe my theory. I've carefully read several Sherlock Holmes books. And my reasoning can't be wrong. Read less of those mystery novels," Weiss said with a helpless shake of his head. Hermione was stunned for a moment, obviously not expecting Weiss to have heard of Sherlock Holmes. "I was born in the Muggle world, so of course I know all this," Weiss said seriously, sitting up straight. Hermione still refused to accept the result and sat down heavily next to Weiss. "Why can't it be Professor Snape?" Harry, like a wounded fawn, timidly approached Weiss's side, looking at him with pitiful, pleading eyes. "Just be kind for once," Weiss sighed helplessly and sat up cross-legged. "First of all, Professor Snape is a potions master. Do you know what a potions master is?" The three children looked at each other and shook their heads. Right now, in the entire British wizarding world, the only one universally recognized as a potions master is Professor Snape. After hearing Weiss's explanation, the three children's eyes widened in surprise, their mouths unconsciously forming an O shape. So he's such a remarkable person. Although Harry wasn't entirely sure what the title of potions master meant, he knew that there was only one in Britain, which was enough to demonstrate Professor Snape's extraordinary abilities. Hermione, however, remained unconvinced and said, "This only proves that Professor Snape has a profound understanding of potions, but it doesn't completely rule him out as a suspect." Ron nodded in agreement. Weiss sighed helplessly. "I don't know why you have such a strong prejudice against Professor Snape. Since Professor Snape is the potions master, wouldn't it be easy for him to concoct a deadly poison? Why would he curse Harry's broomstick in public? Would that expose him too much?" Hermione was momentarily at a loss for words, as Weiss's argument made perfect sense. But Harry's broomstick was indeed acting strangely at the time. Hermione scratched her head in frustration, her hard-earned clue now negated. So someone else cursed the broomstick, and Professor Snape was actually counter-cursing it, protecting Harry. "Protecting me?" "Professor Snape." Harry's eyes widened in disbelief. "The murderer was right there," Hermione said firmly, but then her eyes grew confused. "Who is it?" The three little ones cast hopeful glances at Weiss. "How should I know?" Wes threw up his hands helplessly. "I wasn't there, I didn't see it happen myself." The three had arrived with high hopes, only to return disappointed. "Wes, can you help them?" Hagrid said, his voice choking with heartache. "Harry's a poor kid, don't we still have Dumbledore?" He's always been watching over Harry. Yes, Dumbledore's still here. As a die-hard Dumbledore fan, Hagrid firmly believed that Dumbledore could solve any problem. With that, Wes slumped back down on the carpet, relaxed, and continued chatting casually with Hagrid. Chapter 11: The Mysterious Man in the Forbidden Forest. Wes, are the students getting along well? Dumbledore smiled, offering candy. Wes waved his hand to signal his disinterest. Headmaster, please speak directly. I'm very busy. Wes brushed his messy hair back. With 3 classes a week, you're the least busy of the professors, Dumbledore continued. Wes spread his hands helplessly and said, all right, if you need anything, please let me know. Dumbledore then pulled a clear bottle from under the table. It contained a bright silver liquid. Wes knew what it contained immediately, and it emitted a soft, alluring glow. This is it. Wes' eyes widened, and he clutched the bottle tightly. A flicker of greed flashed across his face, but he quickly concealed it. This is unicorn blood, Dumbledore said, his expression grave. Weiss reacted quickly. He stared at Dumbledore in shock and asked, is someone hunting unicorns in the Forbidden Forest? Unicorns are incredibly powerful, pure, and noble magical creatures, with few natural predators. The fact that such a rare unicorn's blood had been collected suggests someone was deliberately and cruelly hunting in the Forbidden Forest. It's worse than that, Dumbledore frowned, putting the bottle back under the table. Weiss's lingering gaze followed suit. Someone broke into the Forbidden Forest and not only killed a unicorn, but also drank its blood. What a waste, Weiss said subconsciously. As soon as he said that, he felt Dumbledore's gaze turn sharp, and he quickly corrected himself. I meant it's abominable. Dumbledore rolled his eyes, then said seriously, although unicorn blood has powerful healing properties, legend has it that unicorns are sacred creatures blessed by the gods. Cruelly killing a unicorn and drinking its blood will bring a terrible curse? Weiss nodded in agreement and said, even those evil dark wizards would not easily do such a cruel thing unless they were on their last legs and had no other choice. Indeed, Dumbledore took off his glasses and wiped them carefully. I need your help, Weiss. Me? Weiss looked puzzled. Yes, Weiss, Dumbledore said affirmatively. That's all right, Headmaster. I'm a part of Hogwarts, and it's my duty to contribute to the school, Wes replied without hesitation. I'm glad you think so, Wes. The Forbidden Forest is too vast for Hagrid to patrol alone. I hope you can help him. Dumbledore looked at Wes expectantly. Hagrid is a good friend, and I'm glad to be of assistance. Then I'll leave it to you. If you see any danger, be sure to signal, and I'll be there the instant you arrive, Dumbledore instructed. Don't underestimate me, Headmaster. These 4 years have made me a qualified explorer. Wes stood up confidently and strode out of the headmaster's office. For the next week, Wes and Hagrid patrolled the Forbidden Forest together, but nothing unusual happened. Hagrid remained vigilant, swearing fiercely to capture the culprit as a tribute to the lost unicorn. However, Wes suspected that Hagrid's persistence might also be a way to vent his frustration over Norbert, the Norwegian Spinosaurus, who had been sent away. Norbert was hatched from a dragon egg Hagrid won from a mysterious gambler. Unfortunately, Draco reported Norbert, forcing him to be sent away. Hagrid has been brooding over this ever since. Tonight, Weiss visited Hagrid's hut as usual and agreed to go on a tour together. As they left, they saw the school caretaker, Filch, leading Harry Potter and Draco Malfoy from the castle toward the hut, constantly threatening the two children. Okay, Mr. Filch, please stop scaring these little ones. They've had enough bad luck already, Weiss said, quickly stopping Filch. Yes, Professor Erwin, he said, though with a sarcastic tone. I hope you make it back safely from the Forbidden Forest. His gloating expression made it hard to believe it was a sincere blessing. At the mention of the Forbidden Forest, Draco's face paled and he trembled uncontrollably. Don't worry, we'll be in there too, Weiss said softly. I know you. You're the new professor of runes. Draco cautiously approached Weiss. You must protect me. My father is a trustee, and I'll have him promote you. Weiss couldn't help but laugh. He didn't dislike Draco. To him, Draco was just a spoiled brat. Then I'll leave it to you, Mr. Malfoy, Weiss said with a smile. Draco proudly raised his neck and gave Harry a provocative look. Harry didn't bother to pay him any attention. Then, the four of them split into two groups and entered the Forbidden Forest from different directions. The tall, dense trees completely obscured the moonlight, making it seem even more eerie. With a weak kerosene lamp in hand, it was almost impossible to illuminate the path ahead. Draco clutched Weiss's robes tightly, on the verge of tears. I was careless. Weiss quickly pulled out a lantern and snapped his fingers. The light instantly dispersed, dispelling the darkness. Draco finally breathed a sigh of relief. Weiss handed the lantern to Draco. Draco frowned and said, "My father said only servants would hold lanterns for others. I've put a protective spell on this lantern, okay?" Before Weiss could finish his words, Draco snatched the lantern and blushed as he explained, "You're a professor and I'm a student. It's only natural for a student to hold a lantern for a professor." "Well said. I'll definitely give you extra points for that in class, Mr. Malfoy," Weiss said with a smile. Then, Weiss began to carefully patrol the area with Draco, pocketing any precious herbs he found. Gradually, Draco's initial nervousness subsided. He began to view this punishment as a special journey, gradually discovering the magical and beautiful side of the Forbidden Forest, where magical creatures he had never seen before were everywhere. Suddenly, a mournful cry was heard. Draco's heart tightened, and he asked tremblingly, "What's that sound?" Weiss quickly drew his wand, his expression becoming extremely serious. "Follow me, Mr. Malfoy," and he trotted towards the source of the sound. Draco struggled to keep up with his short legs. Along the way, the tree roots, weeds, and small animals blocking the path seemed to sense their urgency and voluntarily moved out of the way. Weiss suddenly stopped before a large tree. "Hide here," Weiss instructed Draco to hide behind the tree before he left. Curious, Draco couldn't help but peek out. He saw a snow-white unicorn, radiating a holy light, slumped to the ground, blood gushing from its neck. A mysterious figure, cloaked in a black robe, greedily sucked the unicorn's blood. Draco quickly covered his mouth with his hand, fearing he would scream out. Weiss rushed forward and swung his wand. The mysterious figure was caught off guard and instantly sent flying. He slammed heavily into a nearby tree trunk and fell motionless to the ground. Weiss, cautiously keeping a distance, continued to point his wand at the man. "Playing dead won't work, Mr. Poacher," Weiss shouted at the mysterious figure on the ground. Thunderbolt, Weiss then unleashed a powerful spell. The mysterious man swiftly tumbled, instantly creating a massive crater in the ground. He quickly stood up and drew his wand. The two men remained facing each other at a distance, their faces obscured by the mysterious man's black robe. Wands in hand, they faced off in the moonlight, a fierce battle imminent. "The contract has been successfully signed, so please invest with confidence. A minimum of 3,000 words will be published daily before launch, with more to come afterward." Chapter 12, Contest in the Dark. Exploding Curse, Weiss unleashed the powerful spell at the mysterious man again at breakneck speed. This time, the spell struck him with unerring precision, like a cannonball fired from a cannon. The immense force sent the mysterious man flying backward, landing heavily on the ground, unable to rise for a long time. At that moment, two distinct voices rang out from the mysterious man's direction. "I'm sorry, Master, give me control of your body." "But Master, your injuries." "Shut up, idiot." "Yes, Master." Weiss keenly sensed a drastic shift in the magical energy within the mysterious man. "It looks like Voldemort has boarded the ship." Weiss knew his next opponent was no longer Quirrell, the insignificant figure, but the terrifying Dark Lord whose name the entire British wizarding community feared. Weiss quickly cast the armor protection spell, creating a solid magical shield that provided him with a reliable layer of defense. "Shadowless," Weiss shouted, and a swift, invisible slash hurled itself at Voldemort. Voldemort reacted swiftly, flicking his wand and easily deflecting the powerful blow. The blow struck several massive trees, neatly slicing them in two. Having failed to land, Weiss continued his attack without hesitation. "Avada Kedavra," he shouted, a terrifying curse. Voldemort dodged with a swift, ghostly agility. However, in that instant, the weeds around him, as if driven by some mysterious force, began to grow wildly, like powerful hands, tightly wrapping around his limbs. "Cunning young man," Voldemort said, his teeth gnashing. "I'm a professor at Hogwarts. How could I possibly use such a vile and unforgivable curse?" Weiss replied calmly. Voldemort muttered something, and a black mist suddenly billowed out of him. The mist seemed to possess a powerful corrosive force, instantly withering and shriveling the weeds entwined around his limbs. Weiss shifted his position on the battlefield, his wand blasting out a continuous barrage of powerful spells, all of which Voldemort easily dodged. "You have talent, young man," Voldemort said, his voice tinged with admiration. "Surrender to me, and I will grant you endless power and glory." Weiss couldn't help but burst into laughter. Surrender to you? A complete loser. A chilling, murderous aura emanated from Voldemort. Do you know who I am? Of course. You're my senior, after all. Weiss's face was defiant, his gaze fixed on Voldemort without flinching. Crucio, Voldemort suddenly unleashed a brutal unforgivable curse, sending a ray of malevolent light blazing towards Weiss. Weiss dodged quickly, muttering, "Petrification." Voldemort nimbly leaped out of the way, avoiding Weiss's spell. Flame, Weiss attacked again, sending a volley of flames hurtling towards Voldemort. Voldemort flicked his wand, and a powerful stream of water erupted, extinguishing the flames. Wes, Hagrid's gruff voice suddenly rang out, hurrying over with Harry. Upon seeing the fallen unicorn, Hagrid rushed to provide emergency care, deftly applying herbs to temporarily stanch the bleeding from its wounds. "Hagrid, take Harry and Draco away," Weiss shouted. Hagrid obeyed without hesitation, his powerful arms tightly cradling the injured unicorn, and he beckoned the two children to leave. If Hagrid weren't half-giant, he would have struggled to lift the heavy unicorn. Draco followed obediently, captivated by the thrilling battle, even a little excited. So this is how wizards fight each other. How cool. After everyone had left, Voldemort said grimly, "You're covering for your students." How touching. Weiss's magic began to boil like water. Now it's just the two of us. We can let loose. Burning flames, Weiss chanted, and a fierce flame erupted from his wand. Under his exquisite control, the flames transformed into a giant dragon with bared fangs and claws, roaring and flying towards Voldemort. Voldemort waved his wand with both hands, muttering something, and a huge ice shield instantly appeared, blocking the flaming dragon's attack. Avada Kedavra, Voldemort unleashed the unforgivable curse once again without hesitation. A terrifying green light shot towards Weiss like lightning. Weiss showed no sign of panic. With a simple flick of his wand, the squirrel, perched in a tree watching the action, flew involuntarily toward the deadly green light. Instantly struck by the green light, it kicked its legs and died. Weiss controlled the blazing dragon and slammed it fiercely into Voldemort. Boom! With a resounding explosion, the force rivaled that of a C4 bomb, incinerating everything within a 10-meter radius. The ground was scorched and billowing with wisps of smoke. Voldemort emerged unscathed from the earth-shattering blast, though his strength was clearly failing. "Master, retreat. Dumbledore will be here soon, you idiot. How dare you let me escape, Master? You are not in a state for high-intensity combat. As long as we can successfully obtain the Philosopher's Stone, that's all that matters." With a flash of fire, Voldemort narrowly avoided Weiss's spell. "Senior, you don't look well." Weiss calmly shook the dust off his robes. "No wonder you need to drink unicorn blood to stay alive. I'm afraid your fragile soul won't be able to hold out for much longer." Voldemort narrowed his eyes, his gaze filled with chilling murderous intent. "It seems I was right," Weiss said, flicking his wand and casting the disarming charm. Weiss had already mastered the silent casting technique, and although the move was unexpected, Voldemort successfully blocked the attack with the blocking walls. "You have a good grasp of silent casting, but you're trying to use the disarming charm against me? Are you kidding?" Voldemort sneered disdainfully. Weiss walked slowly around Voldemort. "Don't underestimate any magic, senior. I covet the profound magic in your mind, bastard." Voldemort was furious, almost breaking his wand. "You actually want to capture me alive?" The Dark Lord, who once dominated an era, had never suffered such a terrible humiliation. Had the young people of today completely forgotten the Dark Lord's terror? "Don't be angry, senior. You just finished your hunt, and now it's my turn to hunt you." Voldemort laughed angrily. "Die!" Voldemort's wand once again billowed with black mist. Wherever it filled, grass and trees withered instantly, and all living things around him died. Weiss quickly cast the purification charm, trying to disperse the evil mist. Fire, the stones and rocks on the ground instantly transformed into powerful bullets, raining down on Voldemort. With a blessing of Weiss's powerful magic, these bullets exerted a powerful force that was no less powerful than real bullets. The diffuse black fog suddenly shrank back, and Weiss immediately became alert and focused on dealing with it. The black fog quickly condensed into a human figure, and then disappeared in the blink of an eye. Weiss was full of confusion at this moment. He used rapid appearance continuously, but still could not find any trace of Voldemort. Did he run away? Weiss was a little amused and said to himself, "It seems that I seem to have overestimated Voldemort's integrity." 4,000 updates per day, signed a contract. Please recommend and vote for the monthly ticket. Welcome to join the discussion to make the plot better. Chapter 13, Ginger is still spicy with age. When Dumbledore hurried over, he immediately spotted Weiss standing alone amidst the devastated ruins. The moonlight streamed down like water, framing his figure with a distinct loneliness. "You're late, Headmaster," Weiss's dark gaze fixed on Dumbledore, a hint of reproach in his tone. "Aren't you going to explain? This isn't just some ordinary poacher." Weiss stared at Dumbledore, trying to pry something out of him. Dumbledore didn't immediately explain. He first carefully surveyed the shattered battle debris around him, then turned to Weiss with admiration. "Your prowess astounds me, Mr. Irving. I demand an explanation, Headmaster Dumbledore." "This is completely different from what you described." Weiss, clearly unimpressed by Dumbledore's compliment, glared at him with a sharp, piercing gaze. "Yes," Dumbledore said gently, sensing Weiss's agitation. "I will give you a satisfactory answer. But let's leave this place first. The fierce battle just now has alerted the centaurs, and I don't want to engage in unnecessary arguments with them late at night." Weiss nodded slightly in agreement. Then, the two returned to the headmaster's office. "Can we start now, Headmaster?" Weiss sat down in the chair across from Dumbledore with a sullen expression. Where should I begin?" Dumbledore said thoughtfully, stroking his long beard. "How about starting with that senior who died 11 years ago?" Weiss stared at Dumbledore's expression, as if unwilling to miss even the slightest change in his expression. Dumbledore paused, stroking his beard at this. His expression suddenly grew serious. "What do you know?" At this moment, Headmaster Dumbledore was like a lion defending his territory. Though the lion was entering his twilight years, his unfathomable strength had not diminished in the slightest with the passage of time. Instead, it had become even more sophisticated. "How terrifying, Headmaster." Weiss, on the other hand, appeared calm, unfazed by Dumbledore's authority. "Are you threatening me, Headmaster?" Dumbledore quickly reverted to his usual affable demeanor, smiling. "No way, I'm just a little nervous." Weiss knew Dumbledore's words were just a casual evasion, and he simply wouldn't believe them. However, he knew he wasn't Dumbledore's enemy, and he even hoped to gain some benefit from Dumbledore, such as deeper magical knowledge. Thinking of this, Weiss confided part of the truth. "I only know that the senior seems to be tirelessly searching for the Philosopher's Stone." "The Philosopher's Stone? Ha ha ha, of course it's the Philosopher's Stone. What else could it be?" Then, changing the subject, "But your strength, Wes, also amazes me. No one has yet managed to escape unscathed from his clutches." "It's no big deal. He's extremely weakened now," Wes said flatly. This wasn't something to be surprised about. Even so, many people wouldn't even have the courage to take action against him. Dumbledore generously praised him, attempting to ease the tense atmosphere. Wes, impatiently, raised his hand to stop him. "Headmaster, even if you praise me like Merlin, it can't cover up your fault in this matter." Yes, let me think carefully about how I can make it up to you." Dumbledore frowned, as if lost in deep thought. Seeing that Dumbledore was still feigning confusion, Weiss simply stated his request. "I want the Philosopher's Stone." "Impossible," Dumbledore flatly refused, leaving no room for negotiation. While the Philosopher's Stone is incredibly magical, its side effects are also extremely terrifying. "Weiss, you're still young, and there's much you haven't experienced yet, and you don't yet understand the dangers." Dumbledore rattled off a long list, trying to dissuade Weiss from this unrealistic idea. "And what about Nicholas Flamel's alchemical notebooks? You must have them. As Nicholas Flamel's only and most devoted friend, he would surely entrust you with his life's lessons for safekeeping." Weiss knew Dumbledore would never give him the Philosopher's Stone so easily, and his request was merely a test. "You're too greedy, Weiss. That's a precious alchemical manual that everyone dreams of." Dumbledore stared at Weiss with wide eyes, surprised. "I just saved 2 students and a unicorn from the feared Voldemort." Weiss's voice rose involuntarily. "No," Dumbledore shook his head. "One of these students is the savior of the British wizarding world." Weiss raised his voice again, his words vehement. "If anyone knew Voldemort was still alive, you should understand the panic it would cause, Headmaster Dumbledore." Weiss's voice was clearly threatening. Dumbledore was furious, his beard puffing and his face scowled, his expression extremely grim. But Weiss knew that this was just a pretense. "Headmaster, I've solved a huge problem for you." Weiss folded his arms over his chest and looked at Dumbledore firmly. Weiss continued, Don't say you didn't know that Voldemort was inhabiting Professor Quirrell and trying to use the power of the Philosopher's Stone to resurrect him. You knew it a long time ago? Dumbledore glared at Weiss. Of course, Weiss couldn't say that he knew this because he had read Harry Potter. All he could say was, Quirrell's disguise was too poor, it could only fool those innocent students. Dumbledore sighed helplessly and said, "You've convinced me, Weiss." He then turned to the trunk behind him and carefully lifted out a massive book. The book was tightly protected by a complex and intricate mechanism. Dumbledore softly incanted a spell, and the mechanism unlocked. Gently stroking the cover, he said with emotion, "Nick gave me this book along with the Philosopher's Stone, and then took his wife to arrange her funeral. I'm afraid this will be the last time we meet." Weiss showed no interest in their story. His gaze was completely captivated by Nicholas Flamel's alchemical notebooks. This is the life's work of an alchemist over 600 years old. As Weiss stared in disbelief, Dumbledore carefully placed the notebook back into the trunk and closed the mechanism. Then, he pulled a thick stack of books from a nearby bookshelf and placed them on the desk. Wes was stunned, a bit bewildered. "These are the alchemical notes that Nico and I have painstakingly compiled," Dumbledore said slowly, noticing West's confusion. West quickly picked up a book and flipped through it, finding a detailed records of Nico Flamel's alchemical experiments and insights. "All of these?" West asked in surprise. Indeed, compiling these notes took a considerable amount of time and effort. "Fortunately, Nico's memory hasn't faded," Dumbledore explained with a smile. "So you've been prepared for this?" Wes suddenly understood. "That's not the case," Dumbledore said with a sly grin. "Nick has long considered passing on his alchemical skills. Several outstanding alchemists in France have already been recognized by Nick and have successfully obtained the alchemical notes, but this hasn't been made public. Nick has commissioned me to identify some outstanding alchemists in the British wizarding world." West's face was filled with a mixture of laughter and tears. "What are you waiting for? These books are all yours now." During the conversation, Dumbledore had already leisurely sat back in his chair. "You are really cunning, Mr. Headmaster," Weiss said helplessly. "You too, Mr. Erwin," Dumbledore replied with a smile. "Thank you all for your support." "Thank you." Chapter 14 Boss. For the rest of the school year, Wes was engrossed in Nicholas Flamel's alchemical notebooks. If Wes had accessed a dashboard displaying his proficiency gains, he'd likely have seen a barrage of eye-catching notifications popping up above his head. Alchemy +1, Alchemy +1, Alchemy +10086. The tense finals approached, and students and professors alike were in a frenzy of activity. Even Wes, usually relatively lenient with his students, assigned homework after every class, a move that naturally drew complaints and dissatisfaction from the students. However, Wes remained undeterred. After all, the students' grades were closely tied to his assessments, and no sloppiness was tolerated. He had only read a tiny fraction of the library's vast library, and he didn't want to be expelled for being too lenient. As for the original storyline, Wes had completely forgotten it. The finals had finally arrived. Weiss was deeply relieved to find that the students in the Magic Rune class didn't receive any dismal grades like P, poor, or D, terrible. Several exceptional students even managed to earn excellent, O, grades. This result surprised Weiss. He had initially assumed that this ancient and challenging elective might not receive the students' attention and dedication. It seemed, however, that the students were genuinely committed and putting in a lot of effort. As the students left school one after another, happily returning home to enjoy their summer vacation, the professors also gradually departed. The once bustling and magical Hogwarts gradually faded, and Weiss was about to embark on a new adventure filled with unknown challenges. All of this was due to the quiet appearance of new words in the dashboard, at alchemy %. What a coincidence? Or is it because of the Philosopher's Stone? Weiss muttered to himself, then vanished from the scene. Tens of thousands of words omitted here. Please use your imagination. In the Marvel Universe's New York, in the tiny potion shop called Hogwarts, Wes, his face brimming with unconcealed joy, appeared there out of nowhere without warning. What a bountiful harvest, what a bountiful harvest. Wes eagerly began to take stock of his bountiful haul. He saw countless piles of gold. Numerous precious Philosopher's Stones shone with a captivating yet ominous red light. And there were also various alchemical manuscripts. I never expected to witness the fusion of artificial humans and truth, Wes thought with a lingering fear. I almost got devoured by truth back then. The alchemy of the at alchemy % world and that of Harry Potter's world differed dramatically. And this difference inspired Wes, leading to a new breakthrough and advancement in his understanding of alchemy. Wes meticulously inventoried his several laboratories and warehouses. These potions are no longer of any use to me. Sell them all. He gazed at the mountain of gold bars before him and sighed with emotion. From now on, I can be considered a wealthy man. Weiss waited until the early hours of the morning, skillfully removing the muggle-repelling and confounding charms. The Hogwarts potion shop reopened for business. Soon, well-informed New York dignitaries caught wind of the situation and rushed to the shop. After all, a whole year had passed, and the potions they had previously purchased had long since been completely consumed. Therefore, the atmosphere at this auction was particularly intense. And Weiss's potion stock was sold out at an astonishing rate. 2 hours later, the auction concluded successfully, and everyone left, satisfied. Only Tony Stark remained. He walked leisurely over to Weiss, a bottle of red wine in hand. "Want a drink with me?" he asked with a casual and uninhibited tone. Wes didn't respond immediately, merely staring at him coldly. "Mr. or Madam Magician, don't look at me so coldly." Tony Stark didn't seem to mind Wes's reaction. "Tony Stark, you're breaking the rules," Wes said in a low, serious voice. "So what? You want to kill me? Go ahead." Tony Stark waved his hand nonchalantly, his face a carefree expression. Then, looking around, he asked, "Where are the glasses? Or do you want to blow directly into the bottle?" Wes was filled with confusion, wondering what was wrong with Tony Stark today. With a flick of his hands, 2 exquisite glasses appeared in his hands. "Wow," Tony Stark exclaimed exaggeratedly, "this is magic." The glasses were quickly filled with a rich, fragrant wine. "This bottle of wine cost me a full $3 million, Tony Stark said, downing the red wine in one gulp without hesitation. He looked less like someone savoring his wine and more like he was unleashing his inner emotions. After 3 full glasses of wine, Tony Stark's face began to flush. "You know what? I'm dying," he said, removing his coat and gesturing to the device on his chest. "This thing was my lifeline, but now it's about to kill me. It's ridiculous. The plot had already reached this point. It's so ironic that a superhero can't even save his own life." Tony Stark opened up, rambling on. Finally, he let out a long breath, releasing all the pent-up frustration within him. "This feels amazing. I've revealed all these secrets to a stranger like you. I don't even know your name, or whether you're a man or a woman. But thank you for listening to all this nonsense." Tony Stark, at that moment, seemed to have finally let go of a heavy burden he'd been carrying. He seemed relieved, his eyes gradually clearing. "Are you dying?" Wes asked. "Yes," Tony Stark shrugged. Wes pulled out a potion and tossed it to Tony Stark. "What's this?" Tony Stark asked curiously, taking it. "A test subject," Wes said calmly, not lying. "This is a new potion I've developed. It contains a great deal of life force, but the side effects are currently unknown." In reality, the potion was meticulously crafted by Wes using the Philosopher's Stone, mixed with an antidote and a restorative potion. He'd simply been struggling to find a suitable test subject. As a crucial protagonist in the Marvel Universe, Tony Stark wouldn't let himself die before completing his mission. For Wes, he was simply the perfect experimental subject. "I'm suffering from palladium poisoning, do you understand? An extremely dangerous radioactive substance." "Forget it, never mind, I'll give it a try," Tony Stark said, waving goodbye to Wes. "Anyway, thank you for listening to me for so long. If I can still survive by chance, I will definitely give you after-sales feedback." After Wes closed the shop, he turned around and was surprised to find a bald woman in a gorgeous golden robe sitting quietly on a chair. Wes was startled at first, but then quickly calmed down. He took off his mask and respectfully performed a standard wizard salute to the woman. "Greetings, Supreme Sorcerer." Master Ancient One smiled lightly and responded, "Hello, Wizard Erwin. Thank you for your recommendation votes, and I hope that book friends who like it will seize the time to invest. It has been signed and will be on the shelves as soon as the word count is full. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 15 Gift? Sorcerer Supreme has visited my humble abode. What advice do you have? Weiss was secretly on high alert at the Ancient One's sudden visit. If the Ancient One made even the slightest move, he would immediately activate the teleport function on his control panel and flee at top speed. After all, he was technically just a stowaway, and in the presence of the Ancient One, who protected Earth, he couldn't help but feel a pang of guilt. I mean no harm, Wizard Erwin. I'm simply curious. The Ancient One's expression was calm. With a gentle wave of his hand, a chair slowly floated behind Weiss. I have many questions. Can you answer them, Wizard Erwin? The Ancient One looked at Weiss with a searching gaze. Weiss took a deep breath, trying to calm himself. He knew that even if he managed to escape the first day this time, he would definitely not be able to escape the 15th. It would be better to take advantage of the Ancient One's lack of ill will and have a good conversation so that he wouldn't have to live in constant fear. Weiss slowly sat down and said, Master, I'll do my best to assist you with any questions you may have. I stumbled upon you while observing the timelines, the Ancient One exclaimed, looking up slightly. You are truly unique. Among the countless intertwined timelines, only in this one have you become a wizard, possessing the uncanny ability to travel through worlds. Weiss felt naked before the Ancient One, his secrets exposed. His body tensed unconsciously. The Ancient One sensed Weiss's uneasiness and said, I'm sorry, Master Erwin. My responsibilities prohibit me from ignoring someone as unique as you. I thought you wouldn't notice me. Weiss's voice was a little dry. Even though you're extremely cautious every time you use your powers, avoiding any possible cameras and staying away from people, the Ancient One waved his hand again, and a lifelike projection of Earth appeared, floating quietly in midair. The Earth was tightly encircled by a massive, complex barrier. After driving the demons of Hell, Dormammu, and the rest of the demons from Earth, I've set up this barrier. The Ancient One's gaze fell on the barrier's projection and explained, firstly, it's to prevent these demons from other dimensions from invading Earth again, and secondly, it provides comprehensive surveillance. Weiss gazed at the dazzlingly complex and immensely vast barrier projected, and couldn't help but marvel at the Ancient One's power. 10 summers ago, the barrier detected an unknown source of magical power. Driven by curiosity, I began to explore, and discovered you. The Ancient One's gaze returned to Weiss, and with a touch of nostalgia, he said, back then, you were a young wizard robbing a gangster. Weiss's mouth twitched, and he groaned inwardly. He had never expected to be discovered on his first return from the Harry Potter world. The magic you performed was truly novel. I had intended to guide you to Camartage, but in September of that year, you suddenly vanished from this world without a trace. I searched the entire Earth, but could find no trace of you. Even the Time Stone couldn't detect your presence, so I assumed you had traveled to another world. The following summer, the barrier detected your presence again. The Ancient One, unbeknownst to him, suddenly held a steaming cup of tea and handed it to Weiss, smiling. This is a drink from the East. I hope you enjoy it. Weiss took the cup. A complex expression flashing before his composure returned. He nodded slightly in gratitude, then slowly said, So, you're here to punish me? Weiss, ready to flee at any moment, asked. The Ancient One looked at Weiss with a strange expression. Why would you think that? In this world, great power always carries danger, Weiss replied. The Ancient One shook his head slightly and sighed. Are all young people these days so extreme? Weiss touched his nose and said helplessly, My abilities might one day bring great disaster to the world. That's just a possibility. It might also bring new hope to the world. Weiss shook his head repeatedly and said self-deprecatingly, I'm not a superhero. Don't think I'm so noble and great. Even the devil can bring hope. Weiss frowned and secretly sneered. How could the words devil and hope, two completely unrelated words, be mentioned together, and from the mouth of the Sorcerer Supreme? I wonder what those devils who had been severely beaten by the Ancient One would think if they heard this. So, Ancient One, what is your purpose in seeking me out? Weiss couldn't help but ask again. Just curiosity, the Ancient One replied casually. Curiosity? Weiss's face was filled with disbelief. Isn't an old man allowed to be curious? The Ancient One tilted his head, a hint of playfulness in his eyes. Weiss grumbled inwardly. You'd better stop tilting your head. It's not cute when someone who's lived through who knows how many years tilts their head, but the time travel feature on the panel was Weiss's trump card, and he wasn't willing to reveal it to anyone else, not even the Sorcerer Supreme. Weiss's silence told the Ancient One that Weiss wouldn't share her secret. She wasn't angry. Everyone had the right to protect their secrets. Wes, you're lucky. Your abilities give you limitless possibilities, but as someone who's been through it all, I want to give you a piece of advice. Go ahead, Weiss said solemnly, listening attentively. The Ancient One, with a serious expression, solemnly instructed, always maintain your curiosity about magic. Weiss agreed, having always sought to learn the higher levels of magical knowledge. The Ancient One, finding Weiss's younger brother increasingly pleasing, smiled and said, my unexpected visit has caused you quite a bit of trouble. I want to give you a gift as compensation. Weiss breathed a sigh of relief. It turned out that the Ancient One hadn't come to cause trouble, so you knew that too. He was even looking forward to what this powerful figure would give him. A supreme sorcerer certainly wouldn't be stingy when it comes to gifts. Is it a magic book or a powerful magical weapon? The Ancient One didn't produce the gift she mentioned, but continued, have you ever heard of the name Mephisto? Weiss felt as if she had fallen into an icy cellar, her face turning pale. If you want me dead, just do it yourself. There's no need to resort to using someone else's knife to kill me. Please bookmark, recommend, and vote for this book. This book needs your support. Chapter 16, Side Quest begins. Who is Mephisto? He's the true Lord of Hell. Across the vast multiverse, he's renowned for his cunning and cruelty. He's on the same level of powerful beings as Satan, Dormammu, and Odin, all fearsome figures. Weiss's guard flared again. So, Master, you're not here to deliver gifts, but rather to assign a mission, Mephisto. No, I think you overestimate me, Master. Weiss knew that his current strength wasn't enough to confront Mephisto head-on. It would be a waste of his life. Seeing Weiss's obvious misunderstanding, the Ancient One slowly explained, I'm not asking you to confront Mephisto directly. After we expelled him from Earth, his true form can no longer descend upon Earth. Now, he relies on clones to deceive humanity. Even if it's just a clone, I can't handle it, Weiss said, frowning. I didn't ask you to deal with him, the Ancient One said seriously, no longer playing suspense. I want you to protect something, the St. Venganza contract. Once you complete the mission, the gift will be yours. I promise you'll be satisfied with it. Weiss didn't believe the Ancient One, but he couldn't just refuse a request from such a powerful figure. He was silent for a long moment, while the Ancient One quietly sipped his tea, awaiting Weiss's response. Are you sure I won't run into Mephisto during this mission? Weiss asked cautiously, still a little worried. I promise, I swear to God. The Ancient One raised his right hand, ready to swear. Wes's face was furious, and he said helplessly, now that you mention it, I'm even more afraid to go. I swear to God, if you meet God and don't give him a few blows, we'll be on good terms. After careful consideration, Weiss finally agreed to the Ancient One's request. Of course, he could simply disappear through the control panel, but Weiss didn't want to do that. He couldn't guarantee that he'd be able to sit across from the Ancient One and drink tea in such a friendly manner the next time he visited the Marvel Universe. He was also genuinely curious about the gift the Ancient One had mentioned. Here, for you, the Ancient One handed a pristine white quill to Weiss. It will lead you to the contract of St. Venganza. With these words, the Ancient One vanished without a trace, as if fearing Weiss might change his mind. I seem to have been tricked. Weiss couldn't help but twitch his lips. I'll trust you just this once. The Sorcerer Supreme wouldn't deceive me, would I, Xandi? Weiss called out, and the house elf, Xandi, appeared before him. Please command, Master, Xandi said respectfully. Pack everything. I'm going to rest, as you command. Weiss then returned to his bedroom, ready to rest. The next afternoon, Weiss appeared on Arthur Avenue. However, what he didn't know was that his photo had gone through layer after layer of rigorous screening before finally appearing on Nick Fury's computer screen. This is the mysterious magician, Nick Fury said, maintaining his usual cautious demeanor. Since last year, the intelligence team has been vetting the identities of everyone on Arthur Avenue. Whether local residents, tourists, or even the homeless, everyone has undergone at least 3 thorough checks. We've even helped the FBI track down several fugitives in the process. Coulson shrugged, seeming a little exhausted by the intense work. So, what's so special about this, Wes Erwin? Nick Fury pressed with a sharp gaze. For an entire year, aside from tourists from out of town, he's the only stranger on the entire street, Coulson spoke, stroking his increasingly thinning hair. You have to remember that over the past year, he's put in countless hours of effort to thoroughly investigate every resident on the street, including all the tourists. Besides, his background is too clean. Nick Fury nodded slightly, signaling Coulson to continue. According to a detailed investigation, Wes Erwin suddenly disappeared from the orphanage at the age of 11 and never returned since then. There is no relevant record of his education, no medical record, and he has never even applied for a credit card. He has no Twitter account and has never had close contact with anyone. He bought his car with cash. In the past 10 years, he has left very few traces in this world. It's as if he has been living in another unknown world. Coulson's eyes were firm, and his tone was firm. Sir, I am 80% sure that Wes Erwin is the mysterious magician. Even if he is not, he must be hiding a huge secret. He doesn't even have a credit card, so you can tell he is not a serious person. Nick Fury pondered for a while, then said, keep a close eye on him, send 3 teams to track and monitor him day and night, and even use satellites when necessary. I will give you temporary level 7 authority, guaranteed to complete the task, sir. Coulson did not hesitate to mobilize personnel to arrange related matters. Wes drove quickly out of New York, following the direction indicated by the quill. Before long, he was out of the state, completely unaware that he was being followed. Sir, he's heading north. The open terrain there makes it difficult for us to track him. After hearing his report, Coulson made a snap decision: immediately activate the satellites and keep a close eye on him. You must take turns following him. Don't let him detect you. The intelligence team, based on his movements, quickly analyzes likely destination. With the order, dozens of agents sprang into action. Wes handed the steering wheel to Jandy and sat in the back seat, reading a notebook intently. Later, he even cast a spell to enable the car to drive automatically, following the quill's direction. Aside from refueling, the car never stopped. Wes's magical suitcase was well stocked with supplies and plenty of space for rest. This put Coulson and his agents on a whirlwind of activity. Arriving in Texas, the car turned off the main road and onto a narrow lane. The road was bumpy, and eventually they arrived at a desolate cemetery. The quill pointed in the direction of a dilapidated-looking wooden house. Wes got out of the car, stretched his legs, and couldn't help but complain, "This trip is terrible. I'd rather ride a broomstick. I need to find time to rebuild this car." The journey was truly uncomfortable, and Wes planned to use alchemy to transform the car into a luxurious model. He turned to look at the dilapidated wooden house and muttered to himself, "Is this where the St. Vanganza Covenant is located?" He walked over and knocked on the door. Creaky, the door opened with a teeth-grinding sound. However, instead of a friendly smile from the owner, Wes was greeted by the cold, double-barreled shotgun. Chapter 17 Ghost Rider. With a gun pointed at his head, Wes instinctively cast the disarming charm. Instantly, a powerful surge of magic erupted from his wand, striking the man holding the shotgun with an invisible force and sending him flying. He slammed into the solid wall with a resounding thud before collapsing onto the ground. The shotgun landed right at Wes's feet. With a blank expression, Wes kicked it out the door. "Don't move," he pointed his wand straight at the corner. "What's that stick you're holding? Is it a wand?" An old, hoarse voice rang out from the corner, a hint of doubt and caution. An elderly cowboy struggled to his feet, shaking off the dust that had coated him. "Are you a magician?" The cowboy's melancholy eyes fixed on Wes. His graying stubble looked especially worn in the dim light. Judging from the old cowboy's attire, one could vaguely tell he was a dashing, charming young man, popular with women. "Where's the Sam Vanganza contract? How did you hear about it?" The old cowboy frowned, appearing especially wary. "That's none of your business, old cowboy," Wes said firmly, not giving him a second to ask. "I can't let the Sam Vanganza contract fall into the hands of someone like you." As they spoke, the old cowboy's right hand silently and slowly reached for his waist, the movement so subtle it was barely noticeable. Petrified, Wes saw through the old cowboy's subtle gesture and didn't bother to argue with the stubborn cowboy. In an instant, the old cowboy was frozen in place, his body as stiff as a stone statue, motionless. Only his eyes could still move, the expression in his eyes perfectly embodying terror and disbelief. "Come here, Sam Vanganza contract." Wes cast the flying spell. As the old cowboy stared in disbelief, a shovel, as if drawn by an invisible hand, flew straight into Wes's hands. Wes took the shovel and carefully felt it for a moment. Soon, he had his answer. Carefully, Wes unhooked the shovel's handle, revealing a yellowed parchment. "It's well hidden," Wes said. He took out a quill and slowly approached the parchment to examine it. As the quill touched the parchment, a soft glow instantly emanated. "That's it," Wes said, a satisfied smile finally breaking across his face. He quickly concealed the St. Venganza contract close to his body. Before leaving, Wes turned to the immobilized old cowboy and said, "In half an hour, the spell will automatically break. You're getting old, so don't be so quick-tempered." Without even looking back, Wes got into his car, stepped on the accelerator, and sped off, leaving behind only a cloud of dust. Half an hour later, the spell finally lifted, and the old cowboy tumbled to the ground. He groaned in pain, struggling to his feet. "I never thought Carter, would fall to the hands of a young man," Carter said, helplessly adjusting his cowboy hat. He then walked outside and bent down to pick up his hunting rifle. A loud whistle rang out. Neigh, neigh, the sound of rapid hooves approached from afar, and soon a tall, sturdy horse stopped beside Carter. Carter gently stroked the horse's head, as if speaking to a close old friend. It's not the cowboy way to be bullied and not fight back. Carter's heart burned with anger, and he made up his mind. He flipped over, nimbly mounted the horse's back, and shouted, "Go!" The horse understood his command, excitedly raised its front hooves, and with an neigh, it chased in the direction Wes had left. Darkness quickly descended, like a vast black curtain slowly enveloping the landscape. Wes slowly stopped the car. The Texas wilderness at night was a scene of mysterious, tranquil beauty. The vast expanse of the countryside seemed even more vast and immensity under the dim moonlight, the grass and low brush like silent shadows. In the sky, a riot of stars shone like diamonds, densely dotting the deep blue sky. The distant mountains blurred, their outlines blurred, leaving only their massive, dark forms. From the ground, one could occasionally glimpse the swift silhouette of a hare scurrying by, or hear the mournful cry of a night owl echoing through the still night. The Texas wilderness at night embodied the rawness and ruggedness of nature, yet possessed an enchanting tranquil beauty that evoked a sense of wonder and boundless charm. "Nice view," Wes murmured. The St. Van Gonzaga contract was in hand. Wes planned to rest here briefly, eat, and take in the rare beauty. Jandy was a true jack of all trades, not only adept at housework and a capable lab assistant, but even the task of camping was no problem for him. Soon, a warm campfire was blazing, and a delicious dinner was ready. Wes leisurely enjoyed Jandy's attentive service. The crisp sound of horse hooves shattered the night stillness. Wes instantly jumped to his feet, acutely aware of the approaching hostility. A skeletal horse, blazing with flames, charged forward with unstoppable force, its hooves leaving a trail of burning flames on the ground. Atop the horse sat a cowboy, ablaze with flames and a skull. Upon seeing Wes, Carter unleashed his shotgun and aimed without hesitation, shouting, "I've got you, wizard boy. I didn't hit you hard, you troublesome old man." However, the current emergency didn't allow Wes to dwell on this. After all, the cowboy before him was out to settle a score. Apparition, Wes reacted swiftly, teleporting behind Carter. Disarm, a powerful disarming spell emanated from Wes's wand, instantly knocking the shotgun out of Carter's hand. Carter reacted just as quickly pulling a revolver from his waistband. Bang, 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 3 shots whizzed out. Obstacles, 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 3 powerful spells were unleashed in a flash. The 3 bullets struck the viscous liquid ahead, their velocity instantly slowing. After struggling through the air for a distance, their potential energy exhausted, they fell helplessly to the ground. 1,000 bullets fired at once. It has never been Wes's style to not fight back. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth is the principle that Wes has always believed in. In the suburbs of Texas, there is no shortage of all kinds of gravel. As Wes cast his magic, countless gravel instantly turned into powerful bullets, shooting at the cowboy and the horse under his crotch like raindrops. The powerful impact penetrated and knocked them down together with the man and the horse. But Wes did not dare to let his guard down. The flames on Carter and the warhorse burned even more fiercely. The wounds on their bodies healed at an astonishing speed visible to the naked eye. After just a few seconds, they stood up again with vigor. Damn immortality! Although everything was within Wes's expectations, he still found it very difficult to deal with. This kind of opponent with immortality is undoubtedly the most annoying. Carter put on his cowboy hat again, his eyes full of provocation. "Your little tricks will not work on me, wizard. Please recommend, please collect, and please vote for the monthly ticket." Chapter 18 The Devil. "Listen, cowboy, I'm not your enemy," Wes said helplessly, trying to explain that he truly didn't want to engage in such a pointless fight. However, his previous actions had already thoroughly irritated Carter, a true Western cowboy. "Stop the nonsense, wizard. You dared to break into Cowboy's home and brazenly steal his belongings? Now pay the price for your reckless behavior, Carter demanded, his eyes wide open, and with a deft movement, he unsheathed the sturdy whip at his waist. Snap! The whip cracked through the air, a crisp and resounding crack that seemed to rip the air apart. Wes knew that only by completely subduing this stubborn cowboy could he truly be persuaded to obey. Thus, a fierce battle erupted again between Ghost Rider and the wizard. Far in space, a sophisticated satellite captured the fierce exchange in crystal-clear footage. Callson's team was only 30 kilometers from the scene of the battle. Seeing the incredible scene on the screen, Callson felt his worldview completely reshaped. Sir, it's confirmed that Wes Erwin is the wizard, but what exactly is he fighting? Inside Trident headquarters in New York, Nick Fury's computer screen was also playing the same shocking scene. Hearing Callson's question, he could no longer suppress his inner rage and cursed, "Motherfucks, sir, how the hell should I know? Why are there so many freaks on Earth? This is a humiliation. There's a flaming skeleton cowboy hiding here in America, and we know nothing about it. What the hell are you doing here?" Nick Fury had always been a man of intense control and suspicion. The sudden appearance of two individuals wielding mysterious and powerful powers, completely beyond his control, was a momentary overwhelm, his heart almost buckling under the weight. "Sir, the name Flaming Skeleton Cowboy is way too long. Motherfucks, sir, is this the time to be fussing about name length? Do you want to go clean toilets, Phil?" "Of course not, sir." "Then keep a close eye on them. If you get a chance, find a way to make contact with them." "Yes, sir." By now, the battle between the two had reached a fever pitch. "Wizard, why do you keep avoiding my gaze? Are you afraid you're just a clumsy provocation? I don't want to be judged by the eye of judgment, wizard. You clearly know so many dark secrets, so why are you trying to steal the St. Venganza contract? You should be well aware of its importance." As the two fought fiercely, their words never stopped, exchanging fierce verbal attacks. But it was clear that neither side had the upper hands in this verbal exchange. Wes cast a transfiguration spell, transforming the surrounding overgrowth into sturdy chains that tightly bound Carter and his majestic steed. However, the flames blazing from the Ghost Rider possessed a terrifying power capable of assimilating all matter. The chains burned red hot, poised to become a powerful new weapon in Carter's lap. Just as Wes was about to cast the petrification spell, he suddenly sensed an extremely evil magical force. Carter muttered, "Devil. It smells like the devil, wizard, let me go." "The devil is coming." Wes knew Carter's words were true. His keen nose detected the pungent odor of sulfur, the distinct scent of hellish creatures. He immediately undid the transfiguration spell. Carter pulled up his steed and stood beside Wes. Wes pulled out a potion and drank it in one gulp. The magic power he had just consumed began to regenerate at an astonishing rate. The two, locked in a fierce battle just moments ago, tacitly joined forces in this critical moment. "Here they come." A sinister black wind suddenly attacked. "Damn it, devil!" Carter unleashed his hunting rifle at full force, unleashing a continuous barrage of ammunition that surprisingly managed to disperse the black wind. A man with disheveled hair and paper-white skin slowly emerged. "Hand over the St. Venganza contract, and we might be able to grant you a more honorable death." The ground suddenly heaved violently, and a tall man burst out from beneath the ground. A pool of water then emerged, coalescing into a drenched figure. These three men were the Witch Heart Demon's minions. The Wind Demon, the Earth Demon, and the Water Demon. Their names suggested they were merely minor supporting characters. The three devils formed a triangle, tightly surrounding Wes and Carter. "Go back to hell, you wicked devils." Carter didn't bother to waste time talking. He aimed directly at the largest of the Earth Demons and pulled the trigger decisively. The bullet whizzed out, accurately hitting the Earth Demon and sending it reeling. The Water Demon instantly lashed out with a long whip. A blazing flame shot towards the Water Demon. The Water Demon deftly controlled the whip, extinguishing the flames with a single powerful lash. Water demons are truly rare. Weiss quickly cast a spell to create a mighty fire dragon, which lunged at the Water Demon with bared fangs and claws. Then, he decisively unleashed a divine blade of invisibility at the Wind Demon. The Wind Demon swiftly waved his hand, and a sharp wind blade instantly negated the divine blade of invisibility. "Wizard, you should be thankful we're in the human world right now. Our strength is greatly suppressed. Otherwise, you would have been dead by that blow just now." The Wind Demon's voice was so sharp and piercing that it seemed to pierce the eardrums. Is there something wrong with the Supreme Mage's barrier? You three got through. Hearing the Supreme Mage's name, the Wind Demon shuddered. To pierce the Supreme Mage's impenetrable barrier, they had been forced to sacrifice at least 90% of their strength, enduring countless hardships and sufferings before finally reaching the human world. I will rip your soul out and torture it for 10,000 years, the Wind Demon vented its rage on Weiss. Weiss simply shrugged and said with a carefree expression, "If you can do it." The Wind Demon raised his hand in anger, and a howling wind suddenly rose. Under his precise control, a powerful hurricane formed. Too slow, the Wind Demon's ultimate attack took too long to prepare. Shattered to pieces, Weiss unleashed a powerful curse without hesitation. Riding the wind, the Wind Demon soared into the air, attacking from above. Sharp wind blades rained down from the sky, striking Weiss like a dense raindrop. Armor? Weiss was instantly covered in an invisible, solid armor, deflecting the sharp wind blades. At this moment, a surging column of water suddenly hit Weiss, knocking him back several steps and almost breaking the armor's protection. After the water demon dealt with the fire dragon, it quickly came to support the Wind Demon. One in the sky, the other on the ground, formed a pincer attack on Weiss. Please support us. Chapter 19. A small boss appears halfway. Weiss calmly pulled a sphere from his robe. As the sphere emerged, it sprouted a pair of nimble wings, gliding gracefully around Weiss. Weiss then activated the magic patterns on his robe. They shone with a dazzling golden light. Biu, a stream of water, like a bullet, shot towards Weiss with swift force. Weiss reacted with incredible speed, disappearing in an instant, dodging the blow with teleportation. Seeing this, the Wind Demon waved his hands, unleashing a gust of ferocious wind. The wind howled, its powerful force transforming pebbles and gravel into projectiles, hurling them towards Weiss with unbridled force. Weiss could only barely hold on under the ferocious onslaught of the two demons. His robes shielded him from several attacks at crucial moments. However, the shimmering golden magic patterns gradually dimmed under the continuous onslaught. Is the cowboy suffering from Alzheimer's? He can't even handle a single opponent, Wes complained as he maneuvered nimbly, dodging and evading the demon's attacks. Just then, the roar of a shotgun echoed through the chaotic battlefield. Carter had dispatched the Earth Demon and arrived. The Wind Demon couldn't dodge and was instantly shot down. Quick freeze, Wes unleashed a freezing spell, striking the Water Demon below with pinpoint accuracy. Frost spread from the Water Demon's feet at an astonishing speed, coating it in the blink of an eye and temporarily restraining it. Without hesitation, Wes rushed to where the Wind Demon had fallen. Carter swung his long whip, whirring and lashing at the Wind Demon. The Wind Demon was agile and dodged the fierce blow. Petrify all, Wes continued his spell, successfully slowing the Wind Demon's movements. The sphere, which had been floating beside Wes, made a whoosh sound, leaving behind a trail of illusory afterimages as it hurtled towards the Wind Demon at breakneck speed, finally striking him squarely in the back, stopping him in his tracks. Well done, wizard. Carter seized the opportunity and swung his whip, wrapping it tightly around the Wind Demon like a snake. With a sharp tug, he pulled it toward him. Look at me, you bastard. The Wind Demon's eyes met the Ghost Rider's. An expression of utter agony spread across his face, his mouth wide open, as if about to let out a wail of agony. Instead, only silent terror filled the air, and his body dissipated into ash. This was the power of the Ghost Rider's Eye of Judgment. Anyone who met his gaze would face judgment, and the guilty would ultimately meet a tragic end, reduced to ash. I didn't expect it would be such a pleasure working with you, wizard. Carter's flaming skull slowly turned towards Weiss. Weiss quickly averted his gaze, knowing full well he was no innocent. There's one more devil left. Carter lowered his hat, his eyes ablaze with battle. I wouldn't mind taking care of another one. The frozen water demon watched Carter approach step by step. Fear grew, and he desperately struggled to break free. In his prime, the water demon was confident he could easily escape. But now, it was impossible to defend himself. Carter grabbed the water demon with both hands. Under the continued scorching heat of his flames, the frost on the water demon's body began to melt. Accept your judgment. Carter hadn't finished his words when he was suddenly and powerfully sent flying, landing heavily at Weiss's feet. Weiss instantly became alert. His eyes fixed on the man falling from the sky. His eyes were pitch black, like an endless abyss, and he exuded a chilling aura of death. The water demon, seeing him, was like a savior in a desperate situation, and hurriedly hid behind him. The witch heart demon cast a cold glance at the now dead earth demon and wind demon, Cursing, waste, the water demon was terrified, hushed in silence, not daring to utter a single sound. Wizard, hand over the St. Venganza contract and submit to me. The witch-heart demon folded his arms, like an almighty monarch. Devil, the human world is not a place where you can act recklessly. Weiss pointed his wand directly at the witch-heart demon. This is the domain of the Supreme Sorcerer. Hearing the Supreme Sorcerer's title, the witch-heart demon felt a flicker of fear. But the thought of obtaining the St. Venganza contract would grant him power surpassing his father's, making him the new Lord of Hell. Even the Supreme Sorcerer wouldn't be able to stop him, and the flames of greed and arrogance reignited in his heart. Supreme Sorcerer, so what? Wait for me. Wes had no patience for a demon's rant. He raised his hand and unleashed a powerful, shadowless divine strike. However, the blow had no effect on the witch demon, instead utterly enraging him. Cunning wizard, the witch demon roared, and a black ball imbued with malevolent power instantly shot towards Wes. Wes reacted quickly, deflecting the ball with a spell, sending it crashing into a nearby tree. The moment it made contact, the tree withered and died at a visible rate. A slight expression crossed the witch demon's face. Wes's mouth twitched, and he thought to himself, with the ability to devour life, I absolutely cannot let myself be hit. Carter had already stood up, firing relentlessly at the witch demon without hesitation. The water demon seized the opportunity, transforming into a torrent and rushing towards Wes. Wes was forced to redirect his attack to counter the water demon's attack. Burning flame and quick freeze, fire and ice magic now proved effective against the water demon. The water demon had learned its lesson this time, choosing instead to entangle Wes, preventing him from joining forces with Carter. Carter, leveraging his immortality, fearlessly suppressed the witch demon. Old dog, how dare you attack your own master? The witch demon raged, cursing Carter non-stop. You're nothing but an old dog abandoned by my father, you're Mephisto's son. Carter's face lit with surprise, having never imagined this demon possessed such a status. Old dog, give up resistance, so I can. Carter responded to the witch demon with even more ferocious and intensive attacks. Go to hell, devil. I'll just take your money. Carter's shotgun seemed to be loaded with bullets, its roar echoing across the empty wilderness. Old dog, the witch demon was completely enraged, unable to maintain his composure, revealing his hideous and terrifying demonic form. Foolish, Carter seized the opportunity to gaze into the witch demon's eyes and shouted, accept judgment. To Carter's immense surprise, the eye of judgment failed to capture the witch demon's soul. Foolish, the witch demon sneered, wielding his right hand, instantly piercing Carter's chest. I have no soul, how could that be? First I'll finish you off, then that wizard, and finally my arrogant, condescending father. The witch demon was gloating. A sleek, powerful motorcycle. Its lines sleek and imbued with hellfire, struck like a bolt of lightning, sending the witch demon flying. The motorcycle spun gracefully on the ground before coming to a steady stop. A flaming skull knight dismounted and pulled Carter to his feet. The two flaming skulls exchanged glances. One of a kind. Chapter 20 Continuous Mission? Weiss, watching nearby, was dumbfounded. What the hell is going on? Why is the new generation of Ghost Rider here at this hour? He muttered to himself, bewildered. Fortunately, the other party seemed friendly, and Weiss breathed a sigh of relief. The water demon was now trembling with fear, nearly fleeing. If the witch-heart demon hadn't been there, it would have already fled. You're scared, Weiss, keenly sensing the water demon's fear, said calmly, you don't possess your master's ability to defy the eye of judgment. If you choose to leave now, I will absolutely not stop you. A flicker of excitement crossed the water demon's eyes, yet doubts remained. Why should I trust you? I'm not a ghost rider. I have no interest in your sinful souls. Weiss pointed expressionlessly at the witch-heart demon, who was being suppressed by two ghost riders. If you don't leave now, it will be too late. Hell is so vast and boundless. As long as I hide well, the witch-heart demon won't be able to find me. Besides, the earth demon and the wind demon are both dead. I originally followed the witch-heart demon so I could ascend to the great demon, but now, the risks are too great. The water demon quickly weighed the pros and cons in his mind. After a moment's deliberation, it instantly transformed into a stream of water, vanishing without a trace in the blink of an eye. Seeing this, Weiss finally breathed a sigh of relief. The continuous fierce battles had drained his energy somewhat. I must advance to level 4 wizard as soon as possible. This world is becoming increasingly dangerous. Whether in the Marvel Universe or the Harry Potter world, there are many precious opportunities. However, to successfully seize these opportunities, one must possess corresponding strength. Level 3 wizards are truly insufficient. Seeing the water demon dare to escape, the witch inner demon roared angrily, "Traitor!" At and a stream of obscure, evil-filled demonic language gushed from his mouth. Weiss didn't dare to delay, quickly casting a spell to block his hearing. He knew that the devil's language could pollute the soul and inflict vicious curses, and he didn't want to fall victim to it for no reason. Although the two ghost riders fought together, they could only rely on their immortality to fight the witch inner demon. Gradually, the witch inner demon began to gain the upper hand. Just 2 lackeys, the witch demon laughed impudently, looking up to the sky. How can lackeys harm their master? The two ghost riders were gradually losing their strength, and Weiss didn't have time to wait for his magic power to fully recover. 3 control spells, Quick Imprisonment, Inverted Bell, and Tarantella Dance, blasted from Weiss's wand, accurately hitting the witch demons. While these spells weren't as powerful as expected, they still managed to slow the witch demons down. Wizard, the witch demon, enraged, eyes blazing, roared wildly as he charged at Weiss. The two ghost riders fought tooth and nail, but were unable to stop the now enraged witch demon. Grow fast, Weiss waved his wand, instantly transforming a rock into a massive mass the size of a hill. With another wave, the hill crashed down upon the witch demon, who was knocked back several steps by the sudden impact. Carter swiftly used his whip, while Johnny used his chain, to entangle the witch demon's hands and desperately pulled back. Wes seized the opportunity to maneuver the hillock onto the witch demon. A surge of black flames erupted from the witch demon's body. In an instant, the hillock, Carter's whip, and Johnny's chain were reduced to ash. The witch demon was now ablaze with raging black flames, its pupilless black eyes like 2 bottomless black holes, staring intently at Wes. "You're dead, wizard." Wes cast several spells in a row, attempting to stop the witch demon. But to little avail. Isn't even a weakened witch demon capable of dealing with it? Wes, inwardly frustrated and deeply aware of his own weakness, clenched his wand tightly, his knuckles turning white from the strain. When the witch demon came within 5 meters of Wes, a brilliant golden light suddenly emanated from his chest. A quill slowly floated out from Weiss's arms. Golden light spread rapidly like ripples. Golden flames instantly ignited the witch heart demon's body. "What is this?" the witch heart demon wailed in agony, his voice shrill and miserable, as he began to frantically destroy everything around him. The golden light slowly condensed into the image of the Ancient One. Sorcerer Supreme, the witch heart demon was horrified, his face filled with disbelief. Without hesitation, he turned and flew away without a glance back. The Ancient One instructed, "This is just a projection of mine, Weiss. Since you have successfully obtained the contract, let's not trouble two masters for one thing. Take the contract and go to Samvanganza." "That seems to violate our original agreement," Weiss refused without hesitation. "Wes, your talent and opportunities are truly admirable, but you have a flaw that cannot be ignored." "What flaw?" "You're too cautious, or perhaps too timid," Ancient One said bluntly. "Whenever you encounter danger, your first thought is to retreat, waiting until everything is fully prepared before choosing to start over." Weiss remained silent, lost in thought. He didn't think there was anything wrong with his approach. Since he already possessed the necessary abilities, why risk his life to charge into battle? Wouldn't it be better to take one step at a time, steadily and steadily? "Wes, the path of magic isn't always smooth and peaceful. You will always encounter problems that you can't avoid. Don't let escape become a habit." Master Ancient One's words were golden advice. Weiss recalled his past achievements, which often came at great risk. Like his first pot of gold from the maze rice, and the terrifying explosion during his first alchemy attempt that nearly killed him. After finally getting through the most difficult and arduous initial phase, Weiss became increasingly obsessed with safety. This wasn't necessarily a bad thing, but it seemed Weiss was being a bit too cautious. The practice of magic is the constant tempering of the soul and spirit. The Ancient One's message was clear: "Weiss, you're being too conservative. Even a seasoned old antique like me can't stand it. If you keep this up, even with your special abilities, you won't achieve great success." Weiss understood this. After all, towering trees can't be grown in a greenhouse. "Don't waste your time. If my life is in danger, I'll abandon the mission. No reward is worth more than my life." Lately, the demons seem to have sensed something in our eyeing earth with eagerness. Kamar Taj's mages are all guarding the barrier. The Ancient One simply doesn't have the time to spare to deal with the little Kara, the Sorcerer's heart demon. By the way, remember, don't let Mephisto take the contract before I'm free. After delivering this crucial warning, the Ancient One transformed into tiny points of light and dissipated into the air. The quill slowly fell into Weiss's hand. There was no doubt that Weiss had been tricked by Ancient One, but he still decided to go ahead. Chapter 21 The mantis catches the cicada, while the oriole is behind. The sun slowly rose, its gentle light like a soft veil, gradually spreading across the vast landscape. Illuminated by the warm sunlight, the Ghost Rider lost his powerful abilities, his form transforming from a terrifying skeleback into normal human form. Carter slowly adjusted his distinctive cowboy hat and lovingly stroked his beloved horse. Johnny, on his motorcycle, looked around bewilderedly, his eyes filled with confusion. Then, his eyes rolled back, and as if losing his support, he fainted. What happened to him? Wes asked, puzzled. Carter shrugged gently, saying calmly, "Don't worry, newbies are always like that." He then calmly pulled a cigar from his pocket, lit it with his lighter, took a deep drag, and asked, "Who is the Sorcerer Supreme? Why is the Sorcerer Heart so afraid of her?" Just then, the roar of car engines suddenly rang out, and 5 cars sped up, sending up clouds of dust. Immediately afterwards, a group of well-armed men, heavily armed to the teeth, quickly emerged and surrounded Weiss and the other 2. However, their guns were pointed downward, and they showed no immediate intent to attack. Coulson, with his hair thinning slightly, quickly approached Weiss and respectfully handed him a business card. "Mr. Erwin, we're Homeland," Wes interrupted Coulson brusquely. "I remember you. You were at the auction." "Glad you remember me," Coulson said, his friendly smile still on his face. "We really mean no harm. We simply want to ask a few questions." "No harm." Wes raised his eyebrows, glaring sharply at the agents surrounding him. "Do you think I'd believe that? After all, I'm just an ordinary person. It's inevitable that I'll feel insecure when facing special individuals like you with special abilities," Coulson said reassuringly. "Don't worry, they won't do anything excessive." "Really?" Wes smiled a chilling, mocking smile. The next second, something unexpected happened. Half of the agents suddenly raised their guns, quickly released the safety, and without hesitation, aimed at their companions. This sudden change of events froze the agents present, daring them to move. Oh, easy, everyone calm down." Panicked, Coulson quickly raised his hands, trying to signal he posed no threat. "Mr. Irving, please calm down. There must be some misunderstanding between us." Coulson's smile faltered, looking utterly embarrassed. "Misunderstanding? I don't think so," Wes said coldly, his fingers twitching. "You first participated in the auction a year ago, which means you've been secretly tracking me since at least that time." Wes pressed his swollen temple and continued, "You must have followed me all the way from New York. You must have been hiding somewhere watching yesterday's fierce battle." "What? You thought I was exhausted from the battle and wanted to take advantage of me?" Coulson's back was instantly drenched in sweat, his clothes sticking to him. Wes's every word was spot on. Following Nick Fury's instructions, they had intended to take advantage of Wes's post-battle weakness to control him and extract the secrets of magic from him. But they hadn't expected Wes to still have some strength left. "Looks like I was right." A hint of murderous intent suddenly flashed in Wes's eyes, and the atmosphere reached a fever pitch. Just as he was about to strike, a sharp ringtone rang out. Coulson quickly gestured to his pocket and said cautiously, "It's the director on the line. I'd appreciate your attention." Without hesitation, Wes pulled out his phone and put it on speakerphone. "Hello, Mr. Magician, it seems my men have had a minor conflict with you. I'm deeply sorry." Nick Fury's voice rang out clearly. What did you mean?" Wes said expressionlessly. He reached out and swiftly ripped a button from Coulson's shirt, revealing a tiny camera hidden inside. "I seem to have underestimated the power of technology. You must have put a lot of effort into discovering my identity, Mr. Erwin. Please understand us, as an organization dedicated to protecting people all over the world." Nick Fury launched into a torrent of profound truths. Erwin, listening in stunned silence, silently lamented that officials, whether in the East or the West, always spoke in cliches. "Okay, enough of the nonsense. Time's running out, and I don't have time for your rambling." Nick Fury frowned in dissatisfaction. Since becoming director, no one had ever dared to speak to him like that. But with his subordinates still in Wes's hands, he could only swallow his anger. "I can let these men of yours go." "What conditions? Just how powerful is your organization?" Nick Fury boasted. "In America, there's nothing we can't do." Wes didn't bother to confront Nick Fury's boast, simply saying, "Listen, if you want these men of yours safe and sound, prepare large excavators and bulldozers for me. Have them all delivered to the designated location before sunset today." Hearing Wes's request, Nick Fury breathed a sigh of relief. "That's easy. Remember, don't try to fool me, unless you want hell to come." "Hell to come? What do you mean?" Before Nick Fury could finish his words, Wes mercilessly hung up the phone. This action infuriated him, making him furious in the office, yelling, "Motherfucks, sir." Wes casually tossed the phone to Kelson. "Mr. Irving, can I remove your spell?" "No." Wes coldly refused, his tone leaving no room for negotiation. Before Kelson could say anything else, Carter reached out and placed a hand on his shoulder. Kelson looked at the cowboy with a puzzled look on his face. Carter said earnestly, "Stop talking. This wizard has a bad temper. Don't make things worse." Kelson could only smile bitterly after hearing this. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 22 Arrival. Several cars raced through the vast Texas wilderness at lightning speed. The wheels churned, kicking up clouds of dust that formed a long, yellow dragon in their wake. These vehicles had clearly been meticulously modified, every component optimized and engineered to handle the complex terrain with ease. Even speeding over the uneven, potholed terrain felt as smooth as if it were a flat road. The bumps in the car were minimal, and those inside felt almost imperceptible, as if they were in a stable, rolling fortress. In the largest car in the center of the group, Wes was writing intently on a sheet of paper. Johnny, unconscious, was securely tied to the seat with strong ropes. Carter glanced casually at the paper in Wes's hand, then quickly lost interest. He shook his head, moved to a nearby seat, and closed his eyes to rest. Kelson sat beside Wes, his eyes fixed on the design with curiosity, and Wes didn't shy away from his gaze. On the draft paper lay a circular magic circle, its patterns crisscrossing and intricate. Wes was completely absorbed, his pen constantly revising, beads of sweat gradually forming on his forehead. An hour later, Wes finally breathed a sigh of relief and handed the blueprint to Kelson. Kelson took it, a look of utter bewilderment on his face. "Give this blueprint to the engineers and have them memorize it. No mistakes can be made," Wes said in a serious, firm tone. "Can you tell me what this magic circle does?" Kelson couldn't help but ask, his eyes filled with curiosity. "I'll explain it to you later." Wes didn't answer his question immediately. "Jandy," Wes called out. With a bang, the house elf, Jandy, appeared instantly. Kelson was stunned by the sudden sight, his face filled with astonishment as he gazed at the bizarre creature. Carter, dozing off, heard the noise, lifted the brim of his hat to glance at Jandy, and couldn't help but whistle. "A magical creature, keep an eye on this creature," Wes commanded Jandy, pointing at Kelson. "Yes, master," Jandy replied respectfully. After giving his orders, Wes opened the suitcase beside him and stepped inside. The suitcase locked automatically. Jandy stood dutifully by the suitcase, his eyes fixed on Kelson, never daring to relax. "Sir," Kelson tried to communicate with Jandy, but he didn't know how to address him. He could only guess from his voice that he was a man. However, Jandy remained unmoved, saying coldly, "Behave yourself, Muggle, if you don't want to suffer." Kelson, frustrated, had no choice but to shut up, refusing to say another word. When Wes finally rested and emerged from the suitcase, he was startled by the sight. Kelson huddled in a ball. Seeing Wes, Kelson's eyes widened, his lips emitting a hum sound as if he had found his savior. "Let him go, Jandy," Wes said. Jandy snapped his fingers. Finally, Kelson was able to stretch his stiffened body, letting out a long, heavy breath, a sense of relief. "I just wanted to talk to Mr. Jandy," he said a little aggrievedly. Johnny, sipping his beer, couldn't help but scoff. "You're just trying to get some information out of me. Don't act so pathetic." Wes glanced at Johnny, who raised his beer in a gesture. "Good job, Jandy." Wes's praise brought a delighted smile to Jandy's face. After Wes assigned him a new task, Jandy vanished. Magical creatures, magical suitcases, magical wizards. Johnny downed his beer in one gulp and flung the empty can out the window with a carefree air. The past few days had been incredibly thrilling for Johnny. Even wizards, characters that only existed in fairy tales, had appeared in his real life. "Did you tell him everything?" Wes asked. "I only told him about the Ghost Rider thing. I'm completely clueless about the rest," Carter replied with a shrug. "Okay." Wes walked to a chair and slowly sat down. "Where should I start?" Mephisto, Johnny and Carter exclaimed in unison. They shared a common sympathy, having both been bewitched by Mephisto and signed the contract. "Well, actually, this all has to do with Mephisto." Wes's tone grew graver. "Mr. Erwin, can my colleagues listen in? They'll be involved in what's coming next," Coulson asked cautiously. After receiving Wes's affirmative response, Coulson expertly activated his communication device. Though nominally intended for his colleagues, only Nick Fury, far away in New York, could hear the conversation. Wes began by introducing Mephisto's identity, rambling on, narrating how he had been tricked into accepting this mission by the Ancient One. The three men's expressions shifted as Wes spoke, alternately shock and fear. Even Coulson, with his specialized training and exceptional mental fortitude, struggled to control his expression. The information they heard was too shocking, too unbelievable. The Ancient One. Mephisto, Lord of Hell. Coulson couldn't help but wonder if this was all just some fabricated myth made up by Wes. Yet, before him stood Carter and Johnny, two men who had signed a pact with Mephisto. Coulson had witnessed their transformation from flaming skeleton knights back to normal human form this morning, and the terrifying demons that had appeared last night. Everything confirmed the truth of Wes's words. "Actually, I'm quite impressed by you two." Wes looked at Carter and Johnny with a look that suggested, "Are you mentally ill? How dare you sign a contract with the infamous, treacherous Mephisto?" Carter and Johnny's faces were instantly filled with embarrassment and regret. Johnny slumped limply in his chair, muttering to himself, "It's too late. I've lost everything. I can't even die now if I want to." His eyes were dull, as if he'd lost all hope in life. Carter, beside him, was likewise, his face filled with despair and helplessness. "Ask him how to stop hell from descending," Nick Fury urged urgently through his headset. "I can hear you. Are you agents always so stealthy?" Wes said with disdain. Coulson, unfazed, expertly pressed a few of the complicated buttons in the car. Then, a lifelike projection of a bald, one-eyed figure appeared inside. "Wow! Has technology advanced this far?" Carter couldn't help but exclaim. Curious, he touched it, only to find it passed right through Nick Fury's projection. "Cowboy, now is not the time to be curious," Nick Fury said eagerly, turning to Wes. "Mr. Irving, what can you do to prevent the onset of hell?" "Nothing." Wes spread his hands, his expression impassive. Everyone in the car stared at him in surprise, unable to believe their ears. "I'm not that capable," Wes shrugged. "I'm just carrying out a mission assigned by the Sorcerer Supreme." "Who the hell is the Sorcerer Supreme? Why isn't she here for something so crucial to the survival of the world?" Nick Fury couldn't help but criticize the Sorcerer Supreme, his tone filled with complaints. Wes scoffed. "Come on, when the Sorcerer Supreme was saving the Earth, your ancestors were being chased by lions in Africa." Nick Fury's already dark face instantly darkened to purple. "It's true that the Emperor isn't anxious, but the eunuchs are," Wes grumbled. "No matter how much you worry, it's useless. If even the Sorcerer Supreme couldn't be trusted, Earth would have been ravaged by these demons long ago." Nick Fury was about to say something in rebuttal when the car stopped. "Looks like we've arrived." Wes picked up the box beside him, opened the door, and stepped out. Before him lay a desolate landscape, overgrown with weeds and a cloud of dust. Only an ancient temple stood alone, looking out of place. "Is this Samvanganza?" Carter and Johnny followed him out, their faces filled with disbelief. "Will Mephisto come here?" "I'd rather not. I don't want to face the Lord of Hell." Although Wes had changed his previous obsession with safety, he knew that confronting Mephisto would be a recipe for death. Chapter 23 Mysterious Magic Circle. Their group was truly remarkable. Soon, several priests slowly emerged from the temple. Their attire was peculiar, as if they had stepped out of an ancient mural from the last century. Their clothing was simple, worn, and aging, bearing the marks of time. "May I ask what brings you here?" A weathered priest, his face wrinkled and wrinkled, spoke first. His voice was slightly hoarse, yet held an indescribable solemnity. Weiss calmly produced an exquisite quill. The old priest immediately took it with trembling hands, his eyes gleaming with excitement. His voice trembled slightly as he asked, "Is this the pen?" Weiss nodded calmly. Finally, the old priest exclaimed, his weathered face filled with relief and anticipation. "Please follow me." Weiss and the others followed the old priest, slowly entering the mysterious church. The church's construction is difficult to trace, yet the vibrant, lifelike oil paintings on its walls seem to silently recount the terrifying events of the past. The first painting depicts a hideous demon and a group of terrified humans, seemingly engaged in some mysterious, untold pact. The second depicts a peaceful village, its people warm and beautiful, their faces beaming with contented smiles. The third depicts a solemn church, where villagers pray devoutly, their focused expressions as if they were pouring out their innermost desires to the gods. The fourth painting depicts the reappearing demon, mercilessly sucking away the souls of 3,000 villagers and sealing them in a mysterious pact. However, for unknown reasons, this crucial pact has mysteriously been lost. The old priest extended his dry, twig-like hands and gently stroked the mural, muttering, "Finally, today has arrived." "Is this the village from back then?" Weiss asked, nodding his head in confirmation. "They've finally returned home." The priests began to whisper an unknown scripture, the sound echoing through the church, imbued with a mysterious atmosphere. "Do you know what to do with this contract?" Calson asked, bewildered. The priests shook their heads, bewildered expressions on their faces. "What now?" "The devil is coming," someone shouted in panic. "Devil?" The priests panicked at the word, their eyes filled with fear and intense anxiety as they looked at each other. "Silence," the old priest shouted, looking at Weiss expectantly, as if waiting for Weiss to make up his mind. Wes slapped his forehead helplessly and sighed, "I knew it." Then he turned and asked, "Coulson, when will the things I need arrive?" Coulson quickly checked his watch and said, "Right away." As soon as he finished speaking, a deafening roar of machinery emanated from outside the church. Wes hurried outside to see what a magnificent sight it was: excavators, bulldozers, and other massive equipment. "What are we waiting for? Get to work immediately. Have them follow the blueprints, not even a fraction," Wes commanded loudly. With the church at its center, a vast and complex magic circle slowly began to take shape. It was undeniable that the people Nick Fury had sent were truly exceptional. From beginning to end, they never asked questions, and no matter how bizarre or incomprehensible Wes's requests were, they followed them without a word. With the help of the priests tirelessly helping with the scribbles, Wes's work became much easier. Thanks to everyone's efforts, the massive magic circle was finally completed before nightfall. Wes immediately released his control over the agents, and everyone else evacuated in an orderly manner. Only Coulson and the old priest insisted on staying. "How much are you paid for working so hard?" Wes asked with a hint of sarcasm. Coulson shrugged calmly, saying, "Hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, including bonuses, whatever you want, but don't expect me to protect you." With that, Wes turned around to make a final check. The sun slowly set, the lingering light fading from the horizon. When the last ray of sunlight completely faded, darkness enveloped the earth. The witch demon flew over from the distant horizon like a ghost. He showed no signs of injury, and his aura was even more fierce and terrifying than before. It turned out that he had ruthlessly devoured the treacherous water demon, thus recovering from his injuries. The witch demon slowly descended from the air, and as his foot touched the ground, Johnny unhesitatingly twisted the accelerator to the floor, and the engine erupted in a deafening roar. Black smoke billowed from Johnny's body, and then flames erupted. His hair was instantly singed, followed by his skin, until he was transformed into a terrifying skeleton knight. He rode his flaming motorcycle, recklessly charging towards the witch demon. "Wow!" Coulson's mouth dropped open as he watched the ordinary motorcycle transform into a blazing chariot. "If you want, you can sign a pact with Mephisto. I'm sure he'd be happy to help you," Wes teased. Coulson shook his head repeatedly, his face filled with rejection. The witch demon, facing the speeding motorcycle, this time easily stopped it with one hand. Even when Johnny squeezed the accelerator to the floor and exerted all his strength, the witch demon remained motionless, as steady as a rock. Carter roared, and from the other direction, he rode his horse towards the witch demon. As he did so, Carter instantly transformed into Ghost Rider. The transformation was a flash of light and a blazing flame. Unlike Johnny, Carter didn't charge head-on. Instead, he circled around the witch demon, seemingly searching for an opportunity. He fired a continuous stream of bullets from his hunting rifle. Bullets slammed into the witch demon's chest, the powerful impact knocking him back several steps. Johnny took the opportunity to jump off his motorcycle and swung the long iron chain in his hand. The chain, flaming, wrapped around the witch demon tightly. However, the witch demon's strength far surpassed Johnny's. With a slight effort, the chain became his weapon. The witch demon grabbed the chain and swung his arm violently, sending Johnny flying like a light object. The witch demon simply used Johnny as a meteor hammer, repeatedly smashing him against the ground. The huge impact even broke an extremely thick tree. Finally, Johnny fell on Carter, and Carter and his horse fell to the ground in a mess. "Idiot, don't you know how to let go?" Carter shouted angrily, finally snapping Johnny out of his daze and causing him to drop the chains. The witch demon showed no mercy. With a wave of his hands, 2 balls of black energy shot out, striking the 2 ghost riders. The powerful force sent them flying into the air. Before they could even land, the witch demon leaped forward and grabbed them by the neck. At that moment, the flames surrounding the 2 ghost riders began to dissipate, putting them in a critical situation. "I've always said, lackeys can't harm their masters." The witch demon scoffed triumphantly. Carter and Johnny struggled, but their struggles were futile against the witch demon's immense power. Just as they were about to transform back into human form, a powerful spell struck the witch demon with pinpoint accuracy. The witch demon howled in agony, forced to splay his fingers open in pain. Carter and Johnny were finally freed. Immediately, their bodies erupted in flames once again. "Wizard," the witch heart demon gnashed his teeth, glaring at Weiss fiercely. "How does it feel to be ripped apart?" Weiss smiled calmly. "You're courting death," the witch heart demon, enraged, charged at Weiss at breakneck speed, leaving only a blurry afterimage in the air. Chapter 24, Battle with the Devil. Suddenly, the witch demon's movement seemed to falter. Carter's whip, like a serpent, had entwined itself around its thick neck. Meanwhile, Johnny's chain, like a giant steel python, had entwined itself around the witch demon's waist. The 2 men gritted their teeth and pulled with all their might, but they could only barely contain the witch demon, giving Wes just enough time to cast a spell. Shadowless Divine Strike, Drown, Burning Flames. A barrage of spells rang out like a cannonball, all manner of incantations being chanted. Even forbidden dark magic was unleashed upon the witch demon by Wes without hesitation. While each spell alone might have inflicted minimal damage, their combined force was immensely insulting. A stream of obscure demonic language and blasphemies gushed forth from the witch demon's mouth. Wes had been prepared. At this moment, the demonic language unfazed him. However, Calson, watching the excitement from afar, was in for a disaster. His head spun, his vision blurring, and his body began to tremble uncontrollably. He began muttering the same phrases as the witch heart demon. "Wake up, Calson, Coulson." No matter how hard Nick Fury screamed through the headset, Calson's body continued to tremble. A strange blackness gradually appeared in his eyes. The old priest, observing this, quickly reached out and grasped Calson's wrist. He pressed a cross against Calson's forehead and began to recite a mysterious mantra. As he chanted, Calson's shaking slowly subsided. The priest then quickly opened the canteen he had brought with him, pried open Calson's mouth, and guzzled it. Gulp, gulp. Calson gradually regained consciousness, only to feel a sharp pain in his stomach, as if it were being gnawed by a million ants. Ugh, he couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of black liquid, which continued to spew out a pungent stench. "Ha ho ha, what's wrong with me?" Calson panted, wiping the stain from the corner of his mouth. "You're contaminated," the old priest said sternly. "But I'm not injured." Calson's face was filled with confusion. He carefully examined his body, but found no wounds. "The devil's language will pollute the human soul and tempt mankind to fall," the old priest explained patiently. "Why are you okay, Reverend?" Calson asked in confusion. The old priest made the sign of the cross on his chest from top to bottom and from right to left with his thumb, and solemnly said, "Almighty God bless me." The old priest's explanation frightened Calson, but he didn't forget his mission. "Sir, the situation here is not good. Retreat, it's too dangerous for you to stay there," Nick Fury ordered decisively. "Yes, sir." Calson opened his briefcase, and several small drones instantly floated into the air. Afterward, Calson invited the old priest to leave with him. The priest shook his head firmly, saying, "I want to see the contract broken with my own eyes." "That's my mission." The 4 men's battle intensified. Calson uttered, "Good luck," and drove away quickly. Wes's spells served only as a distraction in the ferocious battle, Even his powerful dark magic couldn't inflict fatal damage on the witch demon. Wes regretted not mastering the Patronus charm. Damn it, Carter was hurled to the ground by the witch demon's overwhelming force. He struggled to his feet, but the witch demon stomped his chest hard, immobilizing him for a moment. Johnny wrapped the chain tightly around his fist and threw a powerful punch, but the witch demon easily caught it with one hand. The witch demon flexed forcefully, snapping Johnny's wrist with a swift snap. He kicked Carter 10 meters away, then slammed Johnny's head into the ground. Then, adjusting his collar, he strode toward Wes with a feigned elegance, the air of a proud noble. Without hesitation, Wes activated his magic circle. A raging fire erupted within the circle, but the witch demon strolled through it unperturbed, the flames incapable of harming him. The flames of hell are far hotter than your little flame. The witch demon raised his head, a trace of disdain on his face. Wizard, are you out of your mind? Using fire against a demon, Wes ignored him, concentrating on chanting his incantation. The witch demon's pride seemed to be bruised by the indifference. Answer me, wizard. Suddenly, thunder rumbled and lightning flashed from the sky. The witch demon stared at his hands in confusion, a wave of doubt welling up in his heart. I don't seem to have the power over lightning? The thunder grew louder, and electric snakes danced wildly in the dark clouds. Roar of thunder? Weiss raised his wand and swung it vigorously. Crack! A dazzling bolt of lightning struck the witch heart demon accurately. Ah! The witch heart demon screamed in agony. Then, lightning struck the witch heart demon again. He fought with all his might, but the powerful force of the lightning still caused him unbearable pain. The thunder gradually subsided, the dark clouds slowly dispersed, and the moon once again revealed its bright face. The moonlight cast a silver veil on the ground. The witch heart demon was now covered in wounds, and wisps of green smoke still rose from his body. He looked horrified. Wizard! I will tear your soul out and torture it for 10,000 years. Weiss's magic power was almost exhausted, and he was panting heavily, but he still taunted fearlessly. Just you, an idiot. Roar! The witch heart demon roared angrily to the sky. He took a step forward, stumbled, and nearly fell. Clearly, his injuries were serious. Johnny and Carter blocked his way again. Whoa! Carter taunted with exaggerated sarcasm. Look who's that? A roasted prawn. Crack, 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 crack. Johnny let out an uncanny laugh. How dare you insult me, the great prince of hell? The witch heart demon spread his hands in anger, his mouth wide open. Dozens of souls suddenly emerged from the ground and surrounded him. Ha, ha, you didn't expect there would be undead here. Once I absorb them and regain my strength, stop him, Wes roared. Too late, the witch heart demon smirked and swallowed the undead in one gulp. But before he could absorb their energy, the undead began to run wild within him. What's going on? There's something wrong with these undead, the witch heart demon finally realized, but it was too late. The chains instantly engulfed the witch demon. Johnny stared intently at the undead. Except judgment, the undead ignited, and dozens of them swarmed through the witch demon's body, carrying the flames of judgment throughout his form. Why? Why are you judging me when I have no soul? The witch demon screamed, his voice filled with despair. Idiot. Not having a soul doesn't mean I won't be burned by the flames of judgment, Weiss scoffed. Don't you have common sense, you idiot? Damn wizard. The witch demon reached out to grab Weiss. But just as he was about to touch Weiss, he was incinerated to ash and vanished completely in the wind. Chapter 25, Turning Danger into Safety. Finally solved, Carter lowered his head slightly, reaching up to lower the brim of his hat, sighing softly with a look of relief. Ka, the sin has been judged. Johnny, standing beside him, stammered. Afterward, his slightly confused gaze slowly turned to Wes. Wes instinctively avoided his gaze, his brows furrowed slightly, and he said with a hint of annoyance, "Don't look at me, asshole. It seems Mr. Wizard is not a good person." Carter raised his lips slightly, his tone full of sarcasm. That's right, wizards are cruel. Upon hearing this, Wes froze. There were only 3 people present, so where did the voice of the 4th person come from? He frowned, warily pointing his wand in the direction of the voice. A gray-haired man stood there quietly. He was dressed very elegantly, holding an exquisite cane in his hand, and exuded a mysterious and dangerous aura. Mephisto. Carter, upon seeing the man, was instantly horrified, and without hesitation, he fired 2 shots at him. However, the bullets passed through Mephisto's body like ethereal objects, leaving him harmless. Johnny rushed over at breakneck speed, attempting to punch Mephisto in the face. Unsurprisingly, Mephisto's mere glance froze Johnny in place, as if under a spell. "This hurts me so much? My knight is so rude to me." Mephisto slowly pulled out a white handkerchief and gently wiped away the non-existent tears. A slight smile of disdain played on his lips. Weiss's heart tightened, and he slowly backed away, gradually putting distance between himself and Mephisto. All the while, his mind raced, calculating when he would have the chance to use apparition to escape this dangerous situation. Johnny and Carter had signed a contract with Mephisto, effectively becoming his employees, a very special kind. Wes wanted nothing to do with this demon from hell. "And you, little wizard?" Mephisto's penetrating gaze rested on Wes with fascination, as if examining a novel toy. "In the future I predicted, you don't exist." Upon hearing this, Wes immediately considered using his interface to travel to another world. As he pondered this, Mephisto's hand suddenly, like a ghost, rested on Wes's shoulder. "When?" Startled, Wes tensed, his body tensing, afraid to move. "You ruined my plan. How shall I compensate you?" Mephisto narrowed his eyes slightly, forcing a few tears, his expression achingly contrived. "My beloved child, brutally murdered by you. Can you understand the grief I feel right now?" However, seeing the three men's refusal to cooperate, Mephisto gradually lost his desire to perform. He curled his lips and said, "You truly don't understand art. My performance just now could have won at least an Oscar." Mephisto slowly spread his fingers, and the St. Venganza contract flew out from Weiss's chest as if it came to life, landing steadily in Mephisto's hands. "Ah, years of hard work have finally paid off." Mephisto smiled triumphantly, muttering a mysterious incantation. Instantly, the St. Venganza contract shone brightly, its light so intense it was impossible to look directly at. A moment later, the light vanished, replaced by 3,000 holy souls floating in the air. Upon seeing Mephisto, these souls fled in fear. "That won't do. You're God's people. How can you break your promise? This is against the commandments." Mephisto frowned slightly, opened his right hand, and a powerful suction force surged out, trapping the 3,000 holy spirits, preventing them from escaping. "Hurry and think of a way," Carter said anxiously, his voice tense. "Once Mephisto absorbs these souls and opens the gates of hell, it'll be over." "Why are you looking at me? How can I handle a boss of this caliber?" Weiss was also panicking. He was thinking about escaping while Mephisto was absorbing the souls, but his instincts told him that if he did, the consequences would be disastrous. Weiss was in a state of uncertainty, unsure what to do. Just then, an unexpected person stepped forward. The old priest walked towards Mephisto with steady steps, seemingly unfazed by the howling wind around him. "Damn it!" Mephisto's face suddenly changed upon seeing the old priest. He exclaimed in astonishment, "Didn't that idiot Dormammu trap you?" A shadow suddenly emerged from the old priest's body, becoming clearer. It was none other than the Ancient One. After a moment's pause, the old priest bolted towards the church. "Long time no see." The Ancient One's voice was gentle, like a spring breeze, like meeting an old friend. "Are you here to expel me? This is just a clone of mine. There's no loss in abandoning it." Mephisto was momentarily stunned, then feigned sudden realization. "Oh, you're after this contract." Mephisto proudly produced the St. Venganza contract and waved it in his hand. "But this is a contract they signed voluntarily with me. I'm merely here to fulfill this belated agreement. Even you can't deny it." The Ancient One nodded, his expression calm. "You're right, then what are you here for? Are you here to witness me opening the gates of hell?" A wave of unease welled up in Mephisto's heart. A spear suddenly appeared in the Ancient One's hand. Its style was somewhat primitive, even worn. However, the tip was stained with blood, the blood of Jesus. Lance of Longinus. Mephisto's face was utterly grievous. He feigned composure and asked, "He has joined forces with you. It's just a temporary partnership. What I want is the stability of Earth. He needs these 3,000 holy spirits." The Ancient One shrugged and said calmly, "You know, I was too heavy-handed back then. He suffered heavy losses and needs more reinforcements." "Damn it, shameless. How could he do this? He's even more shameless than a devil like me." As Mephisto stared helplessly, the spear of Longinus pierced the St. Venganza contract. Under the force of the spear's tip, the St. Venganza contract was gradually reduced to ash. "Forget it." Mephisto's face turned extremely cold in an instant, as if he had become a different person. "It's just one of countless arrangements." Master Ancient One ignored him, but just stood there quietly. Mephisto took off his hat, bent down slightly, and bowed lightly. "Goodbye, Supreme Sorcerer, I look forward to seeing you next time." After that, his body slowly disappeared, and at the last moment of disappearance, he glanced at Weiss. A magnificent gate suddenly appeared in the sky, and there were angels surrounding the door. The angels were singing sacred songs softly. With a wave of his sleeves, the magnificent gate and the angels disappeared in an instant. 3,000 holy spirits bowed to the Ancient One in thanks, and finally gathered into a group, turning into a stream of light and rushing into the sky. Only a fist-sized crystal ball was left, quietly floating in the air. Thank you all book friends for your recommendation votes and collections. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone, see you in the next video.